we can have our water workshop, and then we can even have an ordinance and bring it on the next agenda if we get to have another meeting, you know, as planned. And as long as we give the public an opportunity to express their opinion and it's brought out, then he will have no problem with the workshop and no criminal charges. Not wanting any criminal charges, we will not have a council meeting. However, we will have a few things before I call this meeting to order. As a matter of fact, unless I have 4 council members present, I can't even have that. However, we do have a nominated council member who has been accepted, and at this time, I'm going to swear him in. And yes, I did check with the attorney. I can do it in the parking lot. Didn't even know that. So, Robert Jaska, would you please come forward? Thank you. Please raise your right hand before all of these people as witnesses. Excuse me.
Karen Julie Rollaway.
Oh, was she lost?
Yes, ma'am.
Repeat after me. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas.
And by the authority of the state of Texas. I, Robert Jaska,
do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will faithfully execute the duties of the office.
That I will faithfully execute the duties of the office.
Of Alderman.
Of
the state of Texas.
Of the state of Texas.
And will to the best of my ability.
And will to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution and laws of the United States.
The Constitution and laws of the United States.
Of this state.
Of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You will take this notarized before we start our council. I'm really sorry to announce that our own council member is lost. Since I haven't called this meeting to order, I can say that if I didn't have gray hair before I became mayor, I might get it before I get outlaw. That really isn't true. There are some things that I will go ahead and announce, even though we don't have that. We have some on this agenda and some that I had before. So, but I do want you to know that even though we have the water workshop tonight, if you've not been to the workshop before, you will know that it's very informal. It is not like a regular council meeting. We like input from all of the audience. Also, I would like you to know that the men's restrooms over there, women's are there. Welcome to this building. Since this is not on the agenda, and I would not want to vary from that agenda, if you will, let's please stand and have a prayer before we have our workshop. Shannon, would you please lead us?
Gracious Father, we thank you so much for the blessings this day, and Father, most of all, for your constant love that you pour out to us each day from your heart. We're thankful, Father, that you love us. We're thankful that you care for us. And we're thankful, Father, that in spite of who we are, you decided to save us and redeem us through your Son, and we thank you and praise you tonight for the plan that you redeemed us with. Father, we're thankful for this opportunity tonight as citizens of this great city to be here and to work with each other, to work with this council. And we're thankful, Father, for the men and the women who serve this city, either through the council or through the city itself. And we just pray, Father, that you would bless us all tonight in our time together, that you would give us wisdom and discernment, and that, Father, we can continue to strive to be a better city, to be a better community of friends and family. And we ask all this tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. At this time, if you will remain standing. Please come on down front.
Fine job. GPS took me the wrong way.
She doesn't know we're not having a council meeting.
Whoa, really?
So at this time, would you mind leading us in our pledge?
I would be most happy to do
Just a
that.
moment.
Okay.
We have a,
We were both in the same place. Yeah, we were together.
good.
Okay.
So if you will, please lead us in our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas flag? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Karen, we do not have a council meeting tonight. We are going straight to our workshop. However, Mr. Jessica has been sworn in as a council member, and we will be going to the workshop agenda.
All right. I think a few people were coming at 7 figuring she council would last for a while.
Well, we were also surprised.
Whoops.
Is there anything else I need to do? Okay. Will the meeting of the Van Alstyne City Council work session please come to order? It is now 6:42. I know you give us at the right time. We have a discussion regarding utility rates. This is number 2. The utility rates established by ordinance 699. We have had this before, as you know. We have had agenda wordings and other things. There is one other thing that I do want to say, and that is for anyone who is here because of an item that's on the agenda tonight. I really feel bad because these agenda items have been on there since the end of November, and we have yet to complete this agenda. I'm sorry you have waited so long, but due to circumstances beyond our control, this is where we are. So tonight we are going to discuss the water, the ordinance, and the water rates. You will notice there was nothing for you to fill out, so you do not have to fill out a form to talk tonight because this is a workshop. We have the ordinance is the first thing. We have discussed the rates before, so the policies will be after this. This has to do, the policies are the hardship extension or hardship, leak adjustment, financial hardship, and the procedure required. This deals with the ordinance. So at this time, we have several sheets that have been performed on water rates. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Baker, and will you bring everyone up to what the rate sheet was?
Mayor and Council, the last water workshop we had over at college, 4 proposals were submitted. One by Councilman Smith, another one by Councilman Flake. Councilman Jennings and Moore agreed on a similar structure, and a 4th one by Councilwoman Torber. We can, if y'all have an opportunity to peruse them, if y'all would like to discuss any changes that you've seen in anybody else's, or any middle ground that y'all could possibly find on the rate structure itself. Of course, the depreciation was in question, as well as the number of lots. anticipated for fiscal year 14.
There were two items that were brought up, one by, one of them was regarding a cap that was removed. At one time, we had a cap on the sewer rate, is that correct? So, and that cap was removed. Also, there was a question about the rate comparison table that we had done, and there was another one that was brought to the council at the last time, saying that the rate change was inaccurate. Have those been corrected on a worksheet?
Those were submitted by Kurt Bramer.
Kurt Bramer.
And scan them in, send them to the water, Phil Gibbons, that performed the water rate study. He hasn't had an opportunity to evaluate them and give us any type of formal assessment as to whether they're valid or even legitimate. Okay,
so we still don't know about the 10 to 20,000 uses if it was calculated incorrectly.
Yes, ma'am.
Those are my only two questions.
Excuse me, could y'all talk louder? A little?
Okay,
Just a little?
okay. We'll do better than that.
I'm older and I don't hear so good.
We can do better than that. Yeah.
We can do a lot better than that. Okay, I had questioned if the figures that were calculated incorrect. Mr. I believe his name's Brennan, brought it to our attention at the last council meeting that he had done his calculations, that he had turned into us, and our calculations. Mr. Baker has said that they have not had time to recalculate it and see if that was incorrect. My other inquiry was about a cap on the sewer. We had a cap on it, but we didn't. And there was some question about why we did not keep it, because several thought that that was something important that we should have. So I think at this time we're going to take questions or comments from the audience. If you would like to make a comment or you have a question, just raise your hand. Pat?
Yes. I've been doing quite a bit of studying on this water rate and stuff, and Mr. So-and-so and Mr. this and Mr. that, who we paying to do this. Why don't we talk to Sherman? I got a brother who lives in Sherman, and I don't know what kind of water he uses, but their rates can't be as high as ours. I paid $90-some this month for my water bill, and his was, I think, $48, $49. And I don't understand why you people don't listen to the people that put the petition up and go back to the rates where we were to begin with. I mean, is it that important for y'all just to have to go up and not listen to the people? I asked here about a month or so ago about our mayor having an office in City Hall. That still ain't gonna happen. So I guess what I'm going to do is probably put it on the agenda to see why the mayor don't have one, because 30 or 40 years the mayor's had an office in City Hall.
But tonight we're discussing water.
I know.
The petition had three things on it. The one that was presented by Karen, and it was the City of Van Alstyne Ordinance number 699, passed on the 23rd day of September 2013. The petition was that it be repealed. The water rates in the City of Van Alstyne Ordinance number 680, 685, and 688 be reinstated, and the excess money collected from the October 1 billing onward be refunded to the city. Furthermore, a policy be established on the hardship for water break and leak. The things in that paragraph are going to be addressed tonight. The council did not elect to repeal the ordinance or reinstate the other. When we inquired as to the refund being
be given to the citizens, and if I'm wrong, Mr. Baker, please correct me, but I was informed that the program that we presently have will not do that, and that it would have to be done by hand, and we do not have the personnel to do this. Is this correct?
Not currently.
Not currently.
We don't have, it would have to be hand calculated, that is correct, Mayor. We just need time to do it if that was something that council elected to do. And when I say time, we're going to need several months to hand calculate that. We have one utility billing clerk. She handles the 130, Jennifer, accounts for the city.
13, over 1,300.
1,300, sorry. So it would take quite a bit of time to do a refund. If you look in your packet, the recommendations from Philip Givens, he would suggest that moving forward, council decide to take action that they deem appropriate, hopefully keeping us within budget, but to try and identify a structure that's going to be more applicable and going to benefit the citizens, not only with a rate that's going to be amenable to all, but also to make sure that we're able to update the infrastructure and keep moving forward on projects.
Yes, you may.
Okay, after the meeting last week, I spoke with Jennifer and the gentleman from TCEQ, and it was several options were discussed. One being that we find a college student that's proficient in Excel that can run the program for us, and another one that we have hire a part-time, not part-time, but someone just for that job to do that, so that it could be done quickly and easily. And I think either of those two options would be very good.
Thank you. I will remind you that no formal action can be taken at a workshop. I'm not going to jail for it. Another thing that was suggested and brought up was winter averaging. Now, winter averaging. Now, this is, according to Mr. Givens, that this concept behind this approach is to be fairer and not bill customers for water that is not entering the wastewater collection system for treatment. It allows customers who do not want to incur the expense of an irrigation meter, and also benefits the customers who do not have a sprinkler system but may water outside by hand. The consequence is that any loss of revenue should be offset by a subsequent increase in the minimum bill, because the revenue requirement expenses have not changed or decreased. Therefore, it is very likely that the implementation of winter averaging will not result in a decrease in the customer's bill, as many customers mistakenly believe. This is from Philip Gibbons. He said the process of this is that you take the common practice, you take the average of the December, January, and February water bill, and you apply the gallons to the customer bill for the rest of the year. This approach assumes that the customer is not doing any outside watering during the winter months, and thus more fairly represents what the customer is contributing to the collection system. For your information, the months are not set in stone. Some utilities use 4 months or different months. The important thing is that the months fairly represent the time when customers are not watering outside. He brings to our attention on the winter averaging. The calculation of the average bill must be done on an account-by-account basis and not on a city-wide average. it would be unfair to calculate the average on a citywide basis because not all customers' water consumption pattern is the same. And I promise I didn't turn it off. So his recommendation is that he suggests that council wait until the data is collected from the billing software after the March billing to see the financial impact of implementing this process and then conduct another rate study based on the new budget, etc. That is the recommendation of Mr. Gibbons. Earlier, this comes and goes. This is just like our council meetings. Earlier, I had brought up the calculations that had been done regarding this. These calculations were made by Mr. Kirk Breimer, and at the time he was not present. Surprise. But he is present tonight. He has come in. So if you have something that we would need to go in reverse and you have recalculated or have calculations that you would like to bring to our attention, you're welcome to do so at this time.
Kind of caught me off guard.
Well, I'm sorry, we didn't have a council meeting tonight. It was illegal. So what we're having is a workshop only. So that's why we're backing up. I'm sorry, we were all caught off guard 2 hours before the council meeting.
Okay, well,
Mayor,
I just got back in.
I think it would be fair to,
days, but,
let me interject one thing. I think it'd be fair to inform you that before you got here, Mr. Baker said that they have not had time to analyze the information you gave them as far as the suspected incorrect figures that you gave. They haven't had time to do that yet.
all right, I don't have anything relative to change, anything to really change basic those numbers. We have a computer. I didn't have time to grab one or stuff coming in, but I do have the spreadsheets if there's one available, and I can change things if there's questions as far as plugging in the different meter sizes or the different things that you might want to see, or if you have questions, if you've reviewed it, I'm more than happy to discuss it with you.
Did you tell the rest of us kind of what you found? I mean, give us just a quick overview.
Sure. Basically, my older brother and I, Mark, we reviewed we did a comparison to September 1st of 2012, the last, and then we had the rate in October 1st of 2012, and then the rate increase again in October 1st, 2013. We compared those as well as the 4 suggested proposals that were done, I guess, at the previous workshop that we were given to, and we did comparisons to basically North Texas cities. We did, let's see, Dallas, Frisco, Gainesville, Gunner, Howe, McKinney, Melissa, Sherman, Anna, Salina, and Van Alstyne. A little bit of South Grayson water supply, but they don't really, kind of do a little different. But anyways, we compared, and primarily we compared the 5/8 and 3/4 inch residential meter rate, both water and sewer. We did some numbers there to try to compare, hey, how do we stand in the region? I know that it's often said, well, we're different than the Anna, Howe, Melissa, and Van Alstyne is different because we're on a different system than the others. I said, okay, yes, but you still got to be able to relate to the whole region, because everybody's basically pulling water from the same areas. If you stand out dramatically, you got to look at your cost structure, okay, and what's going on. And essentially, things start down at the 5,000 gallons per month usage at the 3/4 inch and 5/8 inch scale metered, fairly tight in North Texas. But as you go through your water usage, things get more and more split, especially with the 4 city groupings of Howe, Van Alstyne, Melissa, and Anna. Howe being the highest, and Van Alstyne being second highest. And again, as you continue to further up that scale as far as your water usage, the more dramatic the difference becomes. The other cities that I mentioned are much more flat in their rate usage or their rate charge. If you get to the upper meter scales, let's say 2-inch or beyond, it becomes even more drastic on the starting point, because basically the base charge, no water usage that Van Alstyne has, is very, very high compared to anything else in the region. So you have areas, depending on some usage, on a 2-inch scale, 2-inch meter, for instance, if they happen to have sewage on that 2-inch line, if it's not just water, for the 120, let me see, come up there, basically you start out about a little over $500 basic charge for water and sewage, and you haven't used any water, and you haven't processed any sewage from our numbers. And as it continues across, at the greater number of the other cities, not our 4 up here in this group, but everything else, basically you have to consume about 65 to 70,000 gallons before you even get in line with Gunther. And then if you're Frisco's probably the cheapest. You got to be up in 120,000 gallons in a month before you can get to a 2-inch charge, base 2-inch charge for Van Alstyne. That's just the big difference. They don't even come close to lining up. And that's with water and sewage. We did some water-only charges, and if you do a comparison of water-only, which is in a lot of cases more in line than having sewer, Van Alstyne still stands out quite a bit above everything else. Our start-out point is a drastic standout, and you're looking at, before you get to the other grouping of the cities, basically you're around 60,000 gallons of usage before you get to our base price with no water. We have to look, so my suggestion is why are we charging so high? We have to look at, is our cost structure really demanding that? If it is, we're going to look at it, especially for the 2-inch and higher, you're really not going to be set up to attract any kind of commercial market. You're going to drive out your commercial market and bust your cities, your commercial industry here at that point. So I'm just suggesting we need to look at that. You know, again, it's revenue, and anytime you deal with a business, government kind of takes a little different role about how they do revenue and cost structure. But basically, your costs and your revenue is basically what are you able to charge your companies, or your patrons, your customers, and stay in business.
That's right.
Okay, that's how you generate revenue. And I think it's just speculation on my part. Part of these numbers that we calculated our revenue on was usage, and I don't know what usage was planned, and if our budget was planned off of 100% usage with that rate increase, or was it 70% of that same usage in order to generate revenue. I don't know the idea behind it, but we need to, my suggestion is we need to probably look at that, because when you have such an incredible rate increase, usage goes down. That's just the way it works in business. The cost goes up, you look at other places, and since it's kind of a closed system and you don't have other places, well, basically they stop buying altogether because there's no place else to go. But in a comparison on what we consider to be corrected numbers on the different proposals and that, basically we came up with, from September 1st of 2012 to the new proposals, anywhere from a 32% increase to down at your baseline around 5,000 gallons a month usage, to the lowest increase on the high end was Jennings and Moore's, and that was 79% still an increase, and that was at the 16,000 gallon mark. But even at the at the 5,000 gallon mark, it was still a 30% increase. And that was from, again, September 12 of 2012. So that's a 13, basically if you look at that 13-month span, even the corrected proposals are pretty high. Is there any questions? That's kind of it in a nutshell. And we also suggested possible proposals. And I didn't only call a portion of that letter, but I guess it talked about winter averaging and so forth and different
Yes.
standards.
It was the recommendation that we had gotten from Mr. Gibbons.
Okay.
He also said that when we were discussing the rate increase, he said it served as an incentive to conserve water. Sure does.
And I think that's what happened. You saw massive conservation of water and then a massive decrease in revenue. So where did the city end up being? You know, as a whole, Grayson County has not imposed water restrictions over the last, I don't know if they ever have. But you hear Collin County and those south do. And because of that, McKinney is a perfect example of just raise the rates again. And part of that, I think, is because how they base their revenues on usage. Well, if you impose usage restrictions, you're going to get less water sales. And then what you have to do in order to meet your budget that you're shooting, you've got to raise your prices. Well, then people are going to continue to lower. It's a mean and ugly circle. But it takes a little bit, I think, coordination. What are our actual costs? What can we turn off? And what's our long-term planning as far as what we can do as far as maintenance of the systems? And then what all are we supporting with these revenues? I don't know that aspect of it. I only know the consumer side right now. And I know it's greatly impacted my water usage. In a sense, you're going to continue to get people that will decrease their water usage. Their lawns, those who do irrigate their lawns, won't need more. So it's not going to look as nice. It's not going to be as attractive to come in here. And you're not going to attract the commercial industry. Now, that's my opinion, but.
We argued that conservation issue with the water guy that was here at the last water meeting.
It's Mr. Gibbons.
That it was that you should conserve, and he brought up that it wouldn't help you if we conserve. It's not going to do anything.
I mean,
He
just
was
reduces your
extremely
revenue.
adamant that we conserve, and that was going to help us.
We
But
should
he gets paid
conserve, but
regardless.
not be forced to conserve.
Yeah, but he got paid regardless.
That's right.
Well, he's gonna get paid again if he doesn't erase stuff.
I think
Well, this time he
even
wrote
though
the letter.
even though this is a government entity, I think you really need to take and kind of look at this. How would a private enterprise, how would Kentucky Water do this? How would Grayson County Co-op do this on their water supply? How would other co-op or private industries, how would they do it in order to try to generate their revenue
I can
in
answer
order to
that.
plan for it? So I think that's part of what we have to look at.
Yeah. They wouldn't run their infrastructure into the ground. But we're where we are, right? So we've got to have new infrastructure. We don't have to. I guess the question I've had is, of the proposals that were out there for kind of flattening the top end of the rate out a little bit, has the city manager looked at the numbers on how that affects his budget?
It doesn't affect the budget.
Okay, all this were pretty.
It is
all
a
this
correct
were pretty
statement. The upper end of what he built out is a variable. You cannot guarantee what was going to be brought in as far as revenue. It was meant strictly to be
Then what's the
to
point
promote-
of conserving?
to
I mean,
promote
you're just cutting your own
conservation.
throat. That's
Because we're
just-
chasing, as far as the water table is concerned, on our well water,
Yeah.
we're chasing water. We've already had to drop one well 100 feet this year. We're trying to get things under control. The main thing is, we have an opportunity to start pulling the surface water that we're already paying for from the Texas Water, through a loan from the Texas Water Development Board. Of course, that's going to increase costs in 15. The good news side of it is, we just had a plat filed for 165 new homes on the south end of Georgetown. Of course, those 165 homes aren't going to be built the first year. You're going to look at another 40 to 50 homes annually. We're not going to have, we're not going to skyrocket home building like Ann and Melissa and Salina have. As far as the percentage on what he built it off of, it's not 75%, it's actually 96%. Everything that's built into what is guaranteed to bring in and make sure that we're on target with projects for the new rate structure is the base rate and the minimum that most people in town take. So he was trying to promote conservation and push most people. Of course, it affected the school district dramatically, and we tried to give him a heads up, but you know, a heads up just doesn't get it. But the thing about it is, we're trying to take care of business. It's built around the 7,000 to 10,000 gallon customer on the base minimum meter. As far as the meters going upwards, that is built into the rate structure. I don't recommend changing that. And he built it off of what it was considered a fair share comparison, as compared to how much water flows through each meter compared to a 5/8 or a 3/4 inch meter. Is that the way he, I mean, we've got our engineers here, we've got Drew with Texas, with GTUA, that's the administrator over there.
And the other point about the 2-inch meters are out of...
Let's talk louder, please.
Okay, and the other fact about the 2-inch meters and the complaint about the disparity there, out of 1,332 meters in the city, you're talking about 35 meters total. That's all, and most of them will be either irrigation meters at the school or some commercial business. So the people who are paying the higher rates and using the exorbitant amount of water are your commercial and the school district, are people that have massive water needs right there. But we're only talking 35 meters out of 1,332.
But again, why do we want to punish those people?
And we don't.
It's just strictly conservation, right?
It's
When
strictly conservation.
Conservation only applies because you guys haven't hooked up the water that you should have been paying for years ago anyway.
Well, but of course, the first phase is bring that water line up here, and that was done long before these people got on council. I mean, the main thing was to have the foresight moving forward, to have another option, because well water isn't finite, just like surface water isn't finite. We're trying to find that happy medium to be able to take care of the current citizens as well as the citizens coming to town.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Patterson.
When we first started this, way back there, I was on the council then. And we designated the water that's coming from the south to the north, where the wells are down there. It was designated to go to Georgetown. And all you got to do is close one valve and open the other, and that water will go to Georgetown, and we can start using that water. But we'll never be able to use that water, 'cause we won't live long enough to see all the infrastructure fixing this town. And Steve showed me some pipes out there the other day with water from Lake Levon. It's eaten up by steel pipes. Is that not right, Steve?
No, what you saw there was actually coming out of well number 3 that we lost last week, last month. The well itself had already corroded the pipes real heavy.
Well, what did you tell me about
Now, what I did tell you is we have to do a chemical analysis on the iron pipe that we have in our system.
And we got a lot of iron pipe, I know that for a fact.
We got a lot of small iron pipe, but we have one large 6-inch.
Yeah.
But we have to, anytime we inject that, you have to have a chemical analysis.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why, when we was on the council, just like this council sitting up there now, and that was designated to go to Georgetown, anything else built out there, when we put that in, when we talked about it, why don't we open one valve and close another and put that water on Georgetown?
I think we have to notify them, don't we? Do we have a public hearing?
Yeah, there's all kinds of regulations to change to surface water, plus we still have to do the mixing basin and the chemical analysis, because you're now mixing surface water with well water. I mean, and I know you're saying cut it off totally.
Yeah, why
you
you
can't.
wanna mix it?
That's why you want to mix it.
What you don't have, if you just cut that off, is you're only under pressure, and Georgetown at that point, you don't have the elevated storage tank to stave pressure in case of a break or something like that. So you've lost all redundancy in your system, and your water, if you have a pump failure, a motor failure, a line break, anything in that Georgetown line, they're out of water, they're on a boil notice, and every time that happens, that's what you're going to have. There's no redundancy. The project, and I'll get to it eventually, but the project to bring that surface water in, mix it with the well water, allows us to keep the redundancy in the system and use the existing storage tanks and the elevated storage for the backup that makes that happen.
So what you telling me, if we got to mix the water that when we were on the council, that's what it was designated for. So now you saying we got to mix the water regardless of what happens. And we got to spend $3.4 million to do that. That's what you're telling me.
You can, or you have options to provide an elevated storage tank or backup pressure in some method to handle whatever you want to cut off for surface water versus.
Well, that'd be a whole lot cheaper putting a storage tank down there with it. Well, you can use.
It's going to be about the same cost, but you don't have, the rest of the city doesn't have any backup water at that point. I've got, my presentation will go over the capacities at the city that we're at.
I'm telling you, I think James on the council too then, and I'm telling you.
I think what I'm understanding is difference in engineering, because when this was put in, we were told by the existing engineering firm at that time that it could be done the way the city is set up right now. That you can take the water straight out of what used to be South Grayson's well, which is our take point. Is that not correct?
The one on the south end, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
And the water is coming in as treated lake water, which is treated with acid. Is that not correct? Instead of chlorine or a form of acid.
It's
it's
chlorine.
And acid is corrosive to metal pipe.
Right.
So his recommendation at that time was to put this into the least amount of metal pipe we could put it into.
Right.
Which was the new pipe.
Yes, sir.
And so that's how it was engineered. That's how the valves have been put in, and that's what it would take to do it. Now we have another engineering firm that says that doesn't work. Who do we believe?
That's right. Well, I mean, so you had Hayter, or who's the engineering firm back then?
Yes.
We can get in touch with them. We haven't, I mean, I don't have anything.
I mean,
I don't have anything that says what you're talking about.
Or the existing valves would not be there, and I think Steve has verified the existing valves are there.
Yep.
If that'll alleviate an emergency type situation, then I think you should get in touch with the engineer that designed it in the first place.
The only thing about it, we're gonna be operating on the pressures down at McKinney and not on our pressures.
Right.
So we may be operating at 30 or 40 pounds. And the thing about it is, there's no water at well 6 because we have to drop the well another 120 feet. So we'll just be using the bond water. There'll be no pumps pumping it. We have to add chloramines to it.
Well, Steve, could you put a pump on the existing tanks and stuff down there to give Georgetown plenty of pressure? That'd be better than spending $3.4 million.
If I remember correctly, the pumps we have are small transfer pumps. And it's still not going to increase your pressures that much. When they shut off, your pressures are still going to fall back.
Well, what I'm saying, can we go out and buy a pump less than $3 million to pump water to Georgetown where that thing was designated to be used?
I'm not an engineer. All I can tell you, Pat, is what I can tell you is once we drop below 20 pounds, I'm required by TCEQ to issue a board. So every time Georgetown dropped below 20 pounds, I'd have to issue a board for Georgetown.
You would have to issue a ball if you put a pump down there to pump it to Georgetown.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It depends on the demand and the size of the pump. When that pump shuts down, the pressure's going to back off. Unless you have a pressure tank.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know why it's got to be now with these new engineers, but that's the way it was designed when we first started talking about it, and that's the way it was put in, and that's the reason those two valves are down there now.
I found them.
Yep. Okay.
It might be a good idea that if Mr. Baker does contact the engineers who constructed that.
There hasn't been anything presented like that.
He said he would.
What?
So he said that he would contact.
No, he said something just then.
He just said that he would contact the engineers that they were talking about.
I'll contact them. There hasn't been anything presented to us, anything like that you could just open a valve and start taking it. Because it's treated in McKinney.
It's
then
treated in Wiley.
In Wiley. And then I believe it's treated again in McKinney. Is that right, Drew? No?
It just passes through their system.
It passes through the
It passes through the
It's treated in Wiley.
So whoever told you we can just open a valve and start taking it, we've got to be able to treat it again, is my understanding. But I'll call them and find out.
It doesn't have to get these made out of chloramines, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a pump skill, though. It's not.
Okay.
It's a chloramine device. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Is that, I mean, is that something new that the state is requiring now? Because we were told that by the engineers.
Well, there, North Texas is just going to chloramines over the last couple of years. They were on a chlorine system back in 2002, 2005 when this was discussed. Everybody was on a chlorine system, so it was chlorine to chlorine, so that is able to be done. Now that they've gone and added the ammonia to it, we have to take that, we have to compensate for that as we go forward.
Yeah, you've got to add a chloramine once they start going to chloramine, but I mean, they would have had to put a chlorine system in even if they've done that. Because pulling off that line, you wouldn't have had any residual at that point.
No, I know you, I
So,
know that.
the thing is, I mean, you know, what I'm trying to figure out is that it is just chloramine addition is all you're talking about.
That's the biggest part of it.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, you're not, it's not a big, that's not a big thing.
No, I mean, with forced chlorine, then, I mean, right now, the only thing we'd have down there is a chlorine system down there, and it's just changing over.
Yeah, it's just adding the ammonia to it, yeah.
What don't you think
But-
of big pump
Well,
would help?
don't you have a presentation
Yes, sir.
regarding the water?
Yes, I do.
Would you like?
In the take point though at well 3, Steve?
There is a take point in well 3 too.
Steve, is the pumps that were down there at that station, they're not down there anymore?
They're still there.
They're not working?
Well, I don't have the water in well 6 to pump. I've got to have water.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, you said you had a presentation regarding
Yes,
the water.
yes.
Would
Now,
you-
let me ask a question.
Okay.
We were told that we had to mix the water.
We have, yeah, that by state
So
requirement.
that is today,
The state
as
says
of
you have to
tonight,
mix the
that's a given.
We have
That
to.
we have to mix, is that?
We've got.
No, you have to mix, I think, because you're not sending it directly just to one area. If you send it just to Georgetown, you don't have to mix, right?
That's right.
If it only goes to Georgetown, you don't have to mix.
Right.
What's Georgetown's backup though? If they run out of water, if that one pipe that feeds them runs out of water, that pump goes down.
Open the other valve and close the other.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, all you're doing is switching the freeway valve.
Right.
I mean, you could actually add those valves in there and make that automated, where you could flip the switch, and the minute their pressure went down, they came onto a different system.
That's right.
I mean, in reality.
Seems like to me, we just going spending money just like it's growing on trees.
Well, I mean, I think that they've got a good idea. I do wonder about the mixing of water, because man, mixing surface and well water, you really don't know what you're gonna get from it.
Right.
I mean, you could generate turbidity at that point. You don't want to do
Is it
that.
legal to mix them? The surface and the water?
There's provisions in the state requirements to allow mixing. So
Yeah, they'll allow it, but they don't make
They don't
you
make
mix
you do it.
Yeah, PDQ will allow you to mix it, but the reason they say allow it is because they don't even recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, as a general rule, TDQ is not gonna recommend you to mix surface and well water. Because from a guy who owns the system standpoint, he's not gonna like it.
Our engineer said that too, didn't he? When we said
Okay, one more and then he'll
Yeah,
make
this
his
is
presentation.
something that I really think that we need to consider future growth on, because if you were just gonna send water to Georgetown, what about any growth that's in the south and the west of the city that could also utilize that water? We cannot get narrow-minded at this point in time with the city position for growth like it is, we can't. So just a consideration.
You're not gonna have
Would
this
you
growth.
like
That man
to-
just said you're not gonna have this growth as long as your water bill keep going up.
No, I kind of think she might be right, though. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, what you guys are trying to do makes sense from being able to support a growing city. But in order to not have to worry about being short of water, I mean, you could easily get that Georgetown section and those new 145 home sites on water that's not, you know, coming out of our wells, and then you're going to alleviate the pressure on the wells, and
That
you know,
buys a little more time.
Well, but it doesn't, because we had a presentation from Palladium. We're not just growing on the south end. We had a presentation from Palladium, that's 165 new units. We've got 165 homes on the south end, got the potential for 165 units right there off College, Blasingame. The whole idea is, yes, you're saying you shouldn't mix it. You're a subject matter expert. These guys are too. That's debatable, okay? Out of my wheelhouse.
But
When
Frank,
do you think the 45 homes gonna come?
Those 165 units up there will not use 50% the water Georgetown uses.
I understand that, sir, but that's, okay.
When do you
But that's the
expect
first,
that?
what I'm getting at is, that's the first to come.
When do you
Okay, those are
expect the
not,
houses
those are not
to
the
come?
only two projects.
When you
Those are the only two
expect the
projects that have been presented.
no, I mean, I agree.
When are the
I agree
houses
long
coming?
term, it's probably not a
When-
great idea.
Myself and you live along the city.
One at a time, please.
City manager, will you a whole lot younger than I am, but when we live to see 165 homes built down here, we,
Well,
what is that, building? You was gonna build a lot of 250.
I don't think you can predict that.
They're talking about the same.
First, I'm not gonna ask your age, Mr. Patterson, and secondly, I have no idea. I mean, the main thing is, we're trying to predict what exactly was gonna happen. We're trying to figure it out. The main thing is, we're trying to have the infrastructure in place to be able to take care of these issues. We have development that's coming in on the west side. Is this a burden? Yes, it is. Are we trying to be ahead of the curve? We are. If we can let Mr. McManus do his presentation, it's going to open up a whole new ball of wax as far as questions are concerned, but it'll give you an idea of where we were this last summer and how close we were to being out of water at peak demand.
Is there another way to raise the money for the water infrastructure other than raising the water rates?
Right.
Yeah. Because you're gonna raise the water rate so high that nobody's gonna wanna live here or come here.
I understand what you're saying.
Do that.
The thing about it is, the more residential units we get in, the more commercial, and I understand where you're coming from as far as the higher end of the spectrum, that will flatten out the rate.
But that's,
Okay.
That's
What
not
you're saying is you're gonna change the rate lower at some point?
Is there a better way? I
We
mean,
want- It's not lowering the rate. I mean, the thing about it is there potential to lower the rate? If we have fast, quick, steady growth? Yes. But if we don't, if we project and we move forward on the 45 homes that we projected and predicted, we'll be in fair shape.
But that's
By year two, we'll have the loan be taken
You're
care
not
of.
listening to what I'm saying. Is there another way to
Is there an
get
alternative
that
to what
money
we've got
without
now?
raising the prices so much?
No.
Since the water and sewer are an enterprise fund, they support their costs and expenses are supported only by their revenue. They have to balance.
But you're relying on 1,200 people to build an infrastructure that is going to be $5 million, and we're going to support it, and we can't afford to do that.
And I've
So
got-
is there a better way?
I have some growth numbers that will show you how that gets paid for.
Is it better than us having to pay for it?
Yes, it is.
Then
Well, let's
go.
hear it. You have the floor.
Before you do that, I worked for South Creation Water for 5 years. Those 2 pumps in the south end of town that you're talking about, we forced water all over Anna, Kelly, all down in there. If you can't force enough water with them 2 pumps for just the south end of town, I don't know why. That's the only 2 pumps we had. And I guarantee you, we kept everybody water, and everything Anna bought from South Creation Water was handled with those 2 pumps.
Okay.
And we never, you talk about going down there, one of them might go down, but the other one was already there. We kept them up. But anytime you say them 2 pumps won't fix the south end of town, somebody needs to look at it again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We've got a presentation for you here, to kind of explain the water needs as they're going forward and doing the rates.
You want to tell Mike?
I can keep speaking up, so everybody can hear me. I will. Okay. Next, I want to go into the wells. First slide is, this is your supply right now. There's 6 wells in town, 5 have been operational. Well 2 is 0, it went down, records back to 02 says it's been inactive since before 02. I don't know when it went out of service, but every map that we can find and any record that Steve can find, Well 2 hasn't been operational for at least a decade.
Well 2 is, Steve.
That's off of Nunley. They capped it.
Okay. And the other 5 wells that are active have different performance rates. Well 6, which is the well that would serve this Georgetown area, right now is only rated and only performing at 46 gallons per minute, which will not serve the existing subdivision there. So that's what it needs to be supplemented. So, and then, as you can see, the workhorse is well 5. And the total gallons per minute, if we turn those pumps on and run them 24/7, 365, we can get about 1.2 million gallons a day out of all those wells, which is equivalent to about 435 million gallons. Okay? Yes.
Can I ask you one question? You just looked at well 6. What is wrong with well 6, the reason it's not working out? Do you know it? Does Steve know?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What's wrong
We
with
got to
it?
go 150 feet deeper. We're out of the water table. All the water table, and I think the whole groundwater, both of the aquifers are all down about 50 or 60 feet.
I thought they was talking about right there with Sam. That's not
Well,
well
6 is old Southwestern well, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, well, yeah, we took, on our council, we took a beating on that. We had an individual gonna build a housing project down there to give us that.
Okay. Well, but it's the smallest well, and
I agree with that.
okay, and it's not doing very much right now to help the whole situation. So it's not, unless we find a better, more flourishing aquifer, or go down a couple 100 feet, you know, the water, having the consistency and the reliability on the water that you want to handle that and split it off is where we might have a problem.
And I tell you what, when we got it, it probably wasn't putting out very much more than you think so, Jim.
It wasn't putting out that much.
It wasn't putting out that much, yeah.
Okay.
That's the second time
Next
it's been
one.
open.
Okay, like I said, that 435 million gallons is if we run it 24/7, 365. Obviously, we can't do that for wells and pumps and motors. They have to go on, off, relax, get maintained and lubricated, all that other stuff. Maintenance in 2013, Steve had 359 lost days of actual well time that they couldn't work. Well 6 was out for 270 of those 357 days. Okay? So we have no water at the south end of town in reality today. And the other wells are varying. The only well that did not go down last year was well 3, or well 5, which is out by the college, which is the one that pumps 300 gallons a minute. And it keeps the whole,
that's the newest.
Well, and that's the muscle keeping Van Alstyne in water. If we didn't have that one, we'd be doing a lot of boil orders all the time. You know, those total down days resulted in a total capacity loss of 38 million gallons. So that makes the resultant capacity that we could have pumped 24/7 of 397 million gallons. The next slide, please, Shannon.
A question on your 359 pump days. Is
Yeah.
that 1 year times 6 pumps?
Well, 5 pumps times 365, so we have that many well days available.
That's
We lost, of that number, we lost 359 due to maintenance or downtime, mechanical or maintenance or something.
Over one well for a year.
What happened to the line that was going in the well down there that was coming from North Texas that we bought water from for years and mixed in the tank down there? It went down the old Urban right away out east of Anna. It was tied on, and we substituted that well for years.
I'm unaware of that line, sir. I'm not familiar with that. So
Maybe we need to ask somebody before we just start spending money.
There was a line come up from North Texas Water Works.
okay. Well, yeah, the CGMA.
I sent them a bill every month, and we had a water meter out of east of Anna.
Okay.
And there was a line come from that water meter all the way to that south well. That south well has never been good. It was in the woodbine, and then it caved in and we went down again.
Mm-hmm.
There was a line there that kept that going. Now and the water from the lake was put in them tanks down there without doing anything. Now, what happened to the line? Who took the line out, or what happened to it? How come to quit? I'm talking about South Grayson had
Right, I
water
understand.
then, but the city's got it now.
Okay.
Okay, why somebody quit paying North Texas for the line, for the water, I don't know.
Well, and I'll investigate that and find out what happened to that supplemental water. I mean, that's a good interim source to get there, okay?
But that well has never been any good down there. It's caved in twice.
Right, okay. Well, and that, according to the reports and what Steve's getting out of it, that's verified by 46 gallons per minute, that's pretty good for a well.
The first time it was in the woodbine.
Right.
And the next time we cleaned it out, we went down to the plugs.
Mm-hmm.
If you clean it again, you probably have to go to the Trinity.
Okay. Now, you heard the 435 and the 397 million gallons a day, or million gallons per year is what the total capacity of the water source that we can pump to Van Alstyne, but that's 24/7, 365. During design of a water system, what you're trying to do is there's a ratio, and that's on an average day basis. You take what the citizens use and what you need, and then because of the summer peak and breaks in the line, excess usage for fire, things like that, the design criteria is that you multiply your average use times 2.4 to 2.7 times that, and you don't have to supply that 100% of the time, but you have to have capacity to provide it when it's needed. Okay, that's kind of your insurance. That's what a lot of the elevated tank. That's what the elevated tank covers. That's what the extra pump capacities that are, the perfect situation at a pump station is you got one pump on, providing all the pressure you need.
Right.
The other one's off. And then you switch them and you just alternate back and forth.
Right.
I mean, that is the ideal condition. We take average days. So if we take what Van Alstyne, what the citizens purchased this past year, they purchased 172 million gallons of water through the year. Divided by 397, we have just, this is the first year we have actually plummeted below so we're not in imminent danger on a daily flow, but during the peak flow, we may not be able to reach what the citizens may need for emergencies or high volume usage.
I don't think you're gonna have to worry about high volume usage and high water.
Well, but the part of a block rate structure is to prevent people from just letting water flow across the city. I mean, that's the whole idea.
You know what now?
Huh? The block rates?
I bet we got 25 leaks in this tank. Right now, just water, just right before by my house, just running down the field.
We got, if you only have 25, you're in a good system, because there's leaks everywhere on every system. So, next, Shannon, please. Like I said, the city served 172 million gallons to, out of the things. And the last count we have on this, and Steve and I are verifying the number for this year, but in 2012, we had an 11% unaccounted for water. So in addition to the 172 million gallons that we know went through the meters, there's another 18,000 gallons out there, 18 million gallons a year that just disappeared.
Now, what year was that you're talking about?
Well, the last, 2012 was the last.
When was that water running out that Roberts for over a year? You had to about 10 to 12.
Oh, yeah. That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Next, please.
10 to 12 loads.
What I want to give you is, I'm giving you the background on the water usage so I can get to, okay, TCEQ defines unaccounted for water. An excellent system will have less than 5% lossage. A marginal system is 6 to 10. And at anything above 10, they want to see a proactive program to go forward and try to get it back to 10.
Is Van Alstyne above 10 now?
They're at 11 right now. That was in 12.
Okay.
That was measured 2012. We still got final numbers to get through on 2013 to figure out. In 2009, Van Alstyne was at 29%.
I know that. And I know
So,
where a lot of it went.
I mean, you talk about, we were way off those charts. And so over the last year and a half or so that I've been involved with the system. There's been, Steve and his predecessor have gone on leak programs. We found that big leak out in the field out there by Ballpark Road and a few others, but.
Ballpark, I hear.
Yeah.
You didn't find the big one over here?
Well, Steve can tell you where all the big ones were.
That's the same one, about 10 or 12 big loads of dirt had to go in there to eat out so much dirt. Yeah.
So, there's a lot of that going on. Excuse me a minute. Wet my whistle here.
Now, does TCEQ do anything to you if you have a vote?
If Steve makes his report and he comes in excessively high, they could put an enforcement action on you to make you do that. But if you're at 11% and 10% is what they consider marginal, they're good, as long as you.
29%, they might.
Yeah, at 29% they're going to come after you. At 11% they're not going to do much. Okay, I also want to talk about the average usage here too. This is the water that was sold during the year. 2011 we did 118 million gallons. 2012 we did 171 million gallons. In 2012 we did 172 million gallons. An estimate of, based on counts and backing in the 2010 census plus houses and things like that, we came up with that Van Alstyne has a average, it's gallons per capita per day. That's kind of a statewide number. That means everyone in this building plus everyone out in every house averaged using 149 gallons per day. Now, not everybody does that. Some people use a whole lot more, but the average for 3,000 citizens in Van Alstyne is 149 gallons.
And we that close to Dallas. Dallas is 201, I believe I'm putting that right.
Yep. Well, and the statewide goal with the conservation plans and the block rates and getting all that down is 140. So Van Alstyne is just marginally above what the state plan goal is right now.
We're right where we ought to be, especially because we're in a fairly water-rich area.
While we still have water.
Yeah.
While the aquifers are still flowing. Now, to compare that, we're in Region C of the water plan in the state. And Region C is kind of the water robbers. We're the bad guys in the state plan. Because everybody in North Texas uses way more water than everywhere else in the state according to numbers. And it's true and it's not true. I mean, you look at the raw numbers. Dallas, for example, uses 201, which is real high for a city that, puts out that much water, as much water as they do. But, Plano and Frisco are all over 200, 240. So, I mean, it's pretty bad. And what they compare us to is Austin or San Antonio. Of course, Van Alstyne's better than Austin, but the Dallas region isn't. And San Antonio is kind of the model.
San Antonio's about out of water.
Well, because
I'm working a project right now. They're fixing to take saline water out of the ground and RO it at about 12,000 gallons a minute.
And the reason they're down that low is they don't have the water to do it, so they have to cut their use and make that happen. Go to the next. This is a kind of a representation on the average usage. What I did was I took the 172 million gallons divided by 365. That gives you an average daily use of about 471,000 gallons a day is what the Van Alstyne system sold last year. Now this is sold. I've got two blue lines on here. I can hardly see them. One's right here. It's 497. That's the peak capacity times the 2.4 factor. And that bottom blue line is the 2.7. So you can see the last couple of years, we are pushing up into that envelope to where we are playing with our surplus and our storage capacities. So just kind of, you can see the gradual trend. We leveled out. We did 171 million gallons last year.
That's what we sold.
In 12. And then we sold 172 this year. So
how much did we pump compared with what we sold?
The pump, I know.
How much did the pump compared to what we sold?
That was the 11%. That was 11% on that 470 number. I don't have the number for 471 yet, since we just finished the year.
So I won't fill that I have to submit that in by March. That takes me a little while.
The 11
I'll tell you how much leakage you got in
Steve, do you
town.
have any idea what we're gonna run this year? I mean, it's just a rough guess. You think the percentage
I
would
can
be
say,
more?
I can tell you this much, I got records on all the leaks that we do repairs on with, using the Alstyne leak method to determine how much water you lose. So I can give a better view on how much water I'm losing to leaks, but it's those leaks that we don't find for 2 or 3 years, and that's the ones that's killing us, because these leaks are accountable. It's the ones that I can't find they're looking at it as unaccountable.
There's no way to eliminate them all. They're always
Well,
there.
I know that, but I mean, some that you know about, and Steve, no reflection on you. But myself and you walked down south of my house and seen that, and it's still, and I think I'd rather cut the town off, warn the town, give them some warning, 2 or 3 days, a week, or whatever, and say, we gotta cut the town off and fix a bad leak like that. Because you ought to go over and look now, it's running right on down that field now.
I have quotes that came in Friday on doing hot valve taps.
Okay.
And that's what I'm.
We just took hot valve tap bids to help him, so we can cut off water without cutting off the town.
How do you explain the substantial increase in usage with a relatively small increase in population?
Just excess sprinkler systems, this is metered sales, so this is coming off of the month-to-month meter readings.
So you're calculating that is because of irrigation or yards?
Irrigate, well, the more new homes that come in, they have irrigation systems, new businesses or new things like that. I mean, the meter readings are meter readings. I mean,
But there's no explanation why you have a substantial increase with a relatively small increase in population.
Other than more people are using more water.
Okay.
I mean,
your people, they don't walk the lines each month, read the meter, looking for.
They do. Yes, they do.
We located 13 meter leaks this last.
That's what I'm saying. I read meters for 20 years. I know if you'll pay attention while you read, you can find half of the leaks that you got.
In the month that we had snow on the ground, we had a hard time just finding the meters.
I understand that too. You take about 2 of you go out to the bar, one finds a meter, another reads it.
But we're working on 13 meter leaks we found this last time.
But if you're reading and it's a real green spot someplace, if they'll pay attention, there's something wrong here.
Or you sink up.
Yes, the rod goes into the ground, yeah. But anyway, you have penetrated that envelope to where your surplus capacity to handle your peak, we're in that warning zone, basically, is what it is. So that's why these proposals, and let's go to the next slide. Okay. The system now, we're now within about a 5% usage ratio of the average day for the city as we go forward based on that. So there's an immediate need to increase capacity, like we've been talking about. And because of former council's work and other things like that, go ahead, hit it. That CGMA line is out there for us to use. We get the surface water. The chemistry and the requirements have changed a little bit in how we have to get that water now, which is why it's a little different than just valving and plugging it off, but it's there. You had it built, it's there, it could be utilized. We figured that based on just the take or pay charge, not even assuming how much more we can pay extra on, but what the citizens of Van Alstyne are paying for right now, we can get 84 million gallons a year out of that line.
Well, see, that's what Steve told me at the meeting, I guess last week before last. We paying $9,000 a month for water that we're not even using.
Well, if that's the case and the water's very usable, why don't you go ahead and put that on, as many houses as you can, because that throws you right back underneath that curve, right? And gives you a little more time to get done what you need to get done.
Next slide, please.
Okay, all right.
what that CGMA connection does is it minimizes the risk of the peak day pumping. It'll provide enough water for another 500 homes on average, using 15,000 gallons a month. It defers the need for an additional storage tank out on the west side of town, you know, because that's out on its own. We'll need elevated tanks once we get a population to a certain point for fire demand and to maintain system pressure. And it relieves the demand on the existing wells and pumps, which obviously they're struggling right now to keep going. Next, please.
Now, is this if we're mixing it or just using the?
If we're using it, we're going to have to mix it now, just because of the difference in chemistry on it. Okay, the slide from this point back this way is that same slide you saw before. By adding the CGMA line at the volume that we can take right now without paying any more. Like I said, we can always buy more water from CGMA than we're allotted, but if we just take that, that moves that curve up to 727,000 gallons a day. So that all of a sudden we've got almost a 50% increase in what we're able to do. And, you know, our curve is right here at this, so that's the 500 homes. That's the additional capacity that just by turning that spigot on and we get it out to the rest of the city, that's what's available to us.
And what is the cost in that?
We'll get to that.
Well, somebody sold us, what you saying in so many words, somebody sold this council, myself and James on a bill of goods.
Well, but the chemistry back then, I know.
No, what do you know? I mean, he says, the state says you can mix it, and you're saying we must mix it. There's a misunderstanding there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I want to hear that too, because I mean, and somebody help me out here, because maybe I'm not hearing what you guys are saying. From what I understand, there is the ability to take the CGMA water right now and send it to Georgetown. Is that true or not?
Yes, it's true.
Because you guys keep saying that, and everybody keeps acting like
it's true.
You can't. Okay. No. Why can you not?
The connections have not been made to do that.
Well, how's Melissa taking our water that Steve is selling them?
Because they're getting the water. It's
They've
coming
got
up.
their connection in place.
They've already got their connection.
We don't really have a connection to the CGMA.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
There's not an active consent.
Because I mean, everybody keeps telling me there's a valve somewhere that said it was set up for us to put it out of Georgetown. Is that valve there?
There is not an existing connection to the CGMA line at Pump 6.
I'm basing everything on what I've been told.
Okay.
I paid the bill for 5 years
I've seen
to them, and we had water that came and dumped in that tank down. I don't know where it's at to do anything about it.
We'll investigate.
Wait a minute, we cannot hear what.
Okay, so what you're telling me though is that there is no connection from those set of valves, the valves that can isolate Georgetown. There is no valve that goes to a CGMA line somewhere.
There is a valve box at the tennis court, and there's a valve box in what street is that?
Guys, the CGMA line is nowhere near us. I mean, is there a connection to the CGMA line or not?
No, not one that we can find in the record drawings.
Okay, so there is no line.
I just know there's valve boxes.
Wait a minute, you're saying that there's not an existing pipe between the well 6 apparatus and the GTUA line?
Based upon...
We paid for something we didn't get then.
Sure did.
Well, that's where I've had a problem with this whole thing, is that they keep telling me there is one.
GUTA's man that was involved, he showed me the valve box at the tennis court, which is under Highway 5. Now, I don't know if there's any pipe from that valve box into Georgetown.
The record drawings show.
I don't know.
The record drawings showed a stub out connection to well 6 tanks and one to well 3 tanks, and they're crossed out and said not constructed at the time of. So I mean that's what we're basing our.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you've got to have money to actually.
GTA's knowledge, Melissa and Ann are the only connected who've ever taken water from them. To our knowledge, I'm not.
Because the water's coming up from the south.
But it's not the only ones that's equipped to take it.
That's right. Hal's equipped to take it too, the way I understand it. Right now, Hal, just like Van Alstyne, they're equipped to take it. At least, that's what they told us when we put it in.
When did they complete it? Was it 2007?
2007.
Why didn't they open the valve when they completed it?
Because this city
You
didn't
mean
give
you
them
start
order to
taking
do it.
water?
Yes, sir.
Because we were told that we could not take water until Anna took water.
That's
Because it would lose its residual treatment
Right.
before it got here, and we were paying for treated water. And Anna had to take water in the meantime because of the distance of flow.
So
That's
until,
what we
until
were
Anna
told.
connected and started chlorinating their system,
Right.
they couldn't get it all the way down here with the chlorine.
Right.
But they're chlorinating it on their side after they take it out.
And right
That's what I
now,
would have thought, yeah.
So I don't understand if we open the valve, I mean, if there is a valve there, I mean, and Anna's taking it now, I mean, still, it's not treated, so I don't understand how we can take
Wait
it
a
and
minute,
just
we're
send it.
buying treated water.
yeah, we
It's treated water.
But it's
Then
not,
why is Anna treating it?
but the
Well,
residual is not high.
The residual's not high, so they gotta boost
Okay,
it.
so it has to be treated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it has to be
So,
treated again.
it is treated water, but it's gotta be retreated.
When you say treated, you mean.
Just trying to figure it
you need
out.
to add some chlorine to it.
I mean, I
Well,
don't
it's
understand.
chloramine, so.
Or chloramines, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all we gotta add to the water that's coming up here now, to take it.
What, yeah, I mean, we gotta get
If
the
there
water
was a line,
count.
but he's saying there's no line. You
There's
guys
a line
are, you guys
there.
are telling me there's a line.
There's a line there.
Can someone
There
go
was a
back
line paid
and
for it.
look
There's a
at
line
the
paid
records
for
from
that.
then?
I've got the records from then, and it says that they were not
They weren't
installed.
built.
They were not installed.
The valve boxes are there, but beyond.
So how
that,
far are you talking about running the line?
Those through the car.
It's not far.
No, it's not very far.
It's not very far at all. I mean, that line is right.
You know where the tanks are down here.
Okay, so again, we're talking about $3 million though. The $3 million here is not just to get that line connected so that you can take some of the pressure off the system by putting Georgetown.
With the 3 million, I mean, you're talking about two different things, aren't we? Talking about, you're talking about a sewer, you're talking about upsizing the line
Well,
from,
the sewer line's part of the $3 million project is
Okay.
the drinking water.
so
side.
it's not all just water, it's sewer as
Right,
well.
I figured, yeah, I know the
Okay.
sewer department needs help too.
Okay.
I heard that.
So, yeah, I'm gonna kind of mix a little bit here. But
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is if that's that simple a fix, why don't you just go ahead and do that right now and relieve the pressure on the system so that you can, you're not driving him insane.
Well, let's go back. The pumps are big enough to move water, but they're not big enough to
Pressure
maintain the pressures.
Right.
I mean, you can move water at 20 PSI, and I think y'all were using 4-inch pipe in South Grayson. And we're using 6 and 8 in Georgetown. So, I mean, we've
How
had
would
water
you need
moving.
that much with the few houses you got in Georgetown when we ran it all the way to Kelly?
I know, but I have to maintain above 20 pounds at the worst case.
That goes back to buying the pump that's down there. You saying they're not large enough, right?
The well pump, I'm gonna have to, when I drop it, it's 125 feet.
I mean, you wouldn't want to use that well pump anyway, would you? I mean, wouldn't you want
Well,
to take,
I mean,
you want to take their pressure, right? And then just go
But
ahead and run it.
their pressure is about 35 pounds.
And then put you another pump on
Yeah,
there.
just put a repressurization pump with VFD and call it a day.
That's it.
If they're
Right.
going through the pumps.
Huh?
If they're piped to go through the pumps, I don't know.
Well, I don't know what happened to that line that comes from North Texas in that tank down there, but I know I paid the bill on it to 5 years.
Who's your engineer on that?
I was with South Grayson Water.
Who engineered that?
Who was in, I mean, Freeman Milliken did the
But
CDMA line.
I don't know who engineered South Grayson Water.
Okay.
But that's who brought, we had the line up there. And then we chlorinated it after it got up here and went in the tank.
Well, I'll call Smitty tomorrow and find out.
Well, I don't know, they may take,
I'll
they
find
may
out.
take, it's been a long time since I've been there, but I do know it was there. And that, water from North Texas has come up here for many, many years, and went in that south tank.
Okay.
So you're saying that then the needs to take Lake Lalonde water and put it into Georgetown is a short distance of pipe and a pump.
Well, and we're gonna do.
That's nothing.
Well, we're gonna have to do a mixing basin. We'll have to use, we either have to use one it takes for a mixing basin.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's tank work, there's pump work.
But there's not millions of dollars worth of investment in that.
It'll probably get close to it.
To 1 million,
It'll get close.
we gonna still save 2.4 though.
Okay, well, let me finish this and show you what going, if we go in at well 3, let me finish and I'll get there. The answer is the CGMA line's there. Through the last 18 months or so, we've been working with the Texas Water Development Board, submitting projects for Van Alstyne, and we've been approved for 2 of them now. We've been approved for the Clean Water Act, which is the sewer fund, and for 1.73, and we got approved for 585 for the planning and design of the water system, which includes 2.9 for the construction. Okay, which is your
thing wrong with that.
That's approved.
We already down there broke. Now, how in the world we gonna keep paying that kind of money?
Let me finish.
Okay, all right.
It's there. It's there. It's coming.
I'm gonna see it.
It's coming. Next slide, please. And last week we shared with the council the debt service and the various debt services and what they've done, and what GTUA and Drew did was they gave us they showed a consolidated package where basically $370,000 a year would be the debt service on all 3 projects: the sewer project, the design, planning and the design on the water project, and the construction of the water project.
The 370 Ks for 20 years.
For 20 years.
Okay.
Let me finish.
We talking about tomorrow. Don't pay it tomorrow. We're gonna pay it.
There's your question right there. How do you pay for this?
All right.
There you go. Because it is an enterprise fund, to answer the lady's question, it's an enterprise fund. All expenses, costs, and maintenance have to be generated by fees in that fund. It's in, one out. It's a zero balance game here. It's a balanced budget required by law. There's no, so, and then the new revenue source that fuels this is new homeowners. So by providing this water, now we're up against the peak. By adding that extra, 230,000 gallons a day with this new water source, we open it up for new homeowners to pay it. Now, let me finish. What we get from new homeowners are impact fees, tap fees, and usage fees. Okay, next slide. Current impact fees are about $2,200. We're in the process of updating those right now. Should be here next month. We should be ready to brief the council on what the new impact fees will be. Steve is going through the new tap fee calculation right now. It's about $1,200 for water and sewer, and these are just based on 3/4 inch lines. And then usage fees, what I did to assume, what they would do is I assumed all these new houses would have a sprinkler system. They'd water for 2 hours a week because of the water rate. They don't want any more than that. 15,000 gallons a month.
But you got to sell houses. You got to get people coming in here, don't you?
Let's go. Okay. That contributes about $5,500 to the city's budget every year. We get new house coming in.
At 2,255.
Yeah.
That's what kind of house would that? What kind of impact would that be?
That's for a single family residential. If you come in with an apartment complex or a commercial building, they're rated based on a percentage of water, anticipated usage to the systems. So, like the apartment complex coming up here, well, you get 165 times that. So, well, and I calculated it. It could be that, depending on what size meters they put in. I figured 35 1-inch meters and a 2-inch meter for the palladium thing. That would generate about $150,000 in impact fees.
And that is coming in here.
That sure. If they get approved.
No, not if. Is that coming in here for sure?
Well, I mean, they got to apply and win. I mean, they're.
That's a maybe then. Maybe they might, and maybe they may not.
But right now, based on the current budget, that is not in the budget. If that comes in, that $150,000 becomes a win. Helps supplement rates for.
It's one thing that I know pretty much for a fact. When me and this man was on the council, we set a budget And if it looked like that we wasn't gonna make budget, we always amended the budget, and I hadn't heard of a council lately amending the budget. So,
That's
I mean,
a question.
you set a budget up here, way up here, and you don't get that budget, you gotta start backing up somewhere.
You estimated 15,000 gallons per month usage.
Yeah.
That's an average of per month for the whole year. Basically, you're averaging out what they would use in irrigation in the summer months versus, let's say, that 7,500 or 7,000 during the winter months.
Yeah.
So
I use 15,000 for 12 months on the average, so, I mean, and that came up to about $163 a month bill under the current rate, and which turns into about 2,000. Okay? And like I said, it's 55. So, and last year, in the year we just finished, there were 54 new housing starts, or building permits issued for that. So using that 50-ish rate, go ahead and hit the next. 50 new homes in this next year at that rate would create $272,000 of new revenue that is not on the books as we do this budget.
50 new houses in Van Alstyne this next year is what you're saying.
You did 54 last year. All I'm doing is, we're in the growth period, and just stay moderate with it. Yes, sir.
And guys, you gotta keep in mind that impact fee and tap fee aren't usually paid by the actual property owner. They're paid by the person who puts in the plot, the builder.
Yeah, it's
and
paid
they
by
just
the
roll that into their house payment.
right. So this is, and this is all revenue that does not affect existing customers. This is new revenue.
What percentage of the normal impact fee last year was collected on the home built? Wasn't there a reduction?
There was they just implemented it back in November.
But what guarantee do we have, or what assurance do we have that they won't do it again?
It's the council's decision, so
that's what I'm talking about.
The council wants a new infrastructure.
Well, I don't know, I've gotten a call, talked with some builders, and they don't like it. And they're looking at slowing down building homes, the small homes.
When you said we had 50 permits?
54. 54 is the number.
For 54 new homes?
54 permits were pulled this last year.
54 new homes.
Were pulled this last year.
That was it.
54 new homes.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't match the report we get from the email that we get from.
What Helga Lofton sent this last month was 54 closing out the year.
Those were pulled, or you pulled and built? And built.
Where are the
54 permits pulled.
Pulled, but were they pulled and built?
They're being in the process of the last 5 are in the process of being built.
So 49.
What you telling me got actually 50, the council telling me we had actually 54 homes, new homes built in Van Alstyne.
There are 54 permits pulled in this last year.
Building permits.
Building permits.
Not new home permit.
Yeah. New home permits. I mean,
There is a difference, right?
I understand what you're saying, but what we're getting, what do we get every month?
So what percentage of that impact fee can be adjusted?
Well,
Like, let's say a builder comes in there to allow for a little bit of adjustment.
well, you have to go through and part of it is what does the city need to supply that need? You have to prove that if we put the $3.5 million water project in the water side of the bill, that goes in towards the infrastructure cost that the city needs to do that. We can claim that as a need, and that goes in and affects the impact fee. So the new residents are paying their share of that. Let me go get the stats out here so you can understand what that is.
How does that number compare to the surrounding cities?
The 54?
The current rate, you're right in the middle.
We're below,
you're on the
we're
bottom.
below Ann and Melissa considerably. Howe is lower than us. But Howe's not looking at the type of growth that we're looking at.
Howe's also farther away from Dallas too, so
Yeah.
it's.
It is.
From the Metroplex, yes.
But you said we are lower than.
We're lower than Anna Melissa considerably.
Right. In part, and we're currently finishing up an impact fee study. It has to be updated every 5 years. And so we're in the process of finishing that up and giving our recommendation to the council, and we'll be doing that in the next month or two.
So what you're saying is your debt service on that project is gonna be taken care of in the first couple of years, you're gonna be kind of at a zero.
Let me finish the slide.
I'm not pretty good.
Okay, that means in this next year, if we get 50, we got 54 this year, if we just get 50 next year with the current impact fees, they're gonna go, I'm anticipating that they go up and the tap fees go up. They'll pay for 73% of that new debt for that new water line to serve everybody in the first year. And the new revenue they create, because, they don't pay impact fees and tap fees the second year, but they continue to use the water. We pay off that the new revenue stream is over that, it's $371,000 a year from just the new revenue after 2 years of 50 home growth.
Well, I'm not trying to be smart, but that guy right over there just said, when he stood up and said, he don't see no growth coming here if the water bill keeps going up. Is that not what you said, sir?
I said it definitely impacts and delays the growth.
It delays the growth.
It has to be
Now,
considered.
you have that revenue, but you also have expenses associated with that revenue.
Yes, we do.
Have you considered the fact that, you're saying that you're gonna have enough to pay the increased cost, but you're gonna have, the payments on what we're talking about, but you're also gonna have additional expenses to provide that service.
Right.
Is that factored in there too?
Well, it'll come out through the budget process and how we handle that.
No, what you're saying is, I'm gonna be able to serve 100 people in my restaurant, and I'm gonna have that as revenue, but I don't have to pay Benny Keith for the food that comes in the back door. You gotta take one with the other.
Well, yeah, I understand.
And all you're doing is taking the income, and you're not allowing for an expense.
You have to understand that, the service on those new homes and stuff, guys, your infrastructure service to those things is gonna be minimal.
It's brand new.
It should be. And, if they're building guys, if their inspectors are making sure they put the lines in right and stuff, you're not having a whole lot of service.
But the cost to get the water in there and the cost to process the sewer when it comes out.
That's
those are just incremental costs, though. You're paying with those with the more usage, right?
Okay, but you can't take all of your income.
You're right.
And disregard the cost of it. Now, one other thing in defense of previous council members, D.R. Horton came in here, my understanding from talking to people, and said, "Bad Alstyne, you're next. You better have a new sewer plant. You better get this water line, because we're here to build 1,000 homes." Well, D.R. Horton, or Blaylocks, filed bankruptcy and left town.
That's right.
We still have the water line that we're paying on. We still have the new sewer plant that was built.
Right.
And that was all anticipated that all of this growth was going to happen.
That's right.
You got to expect it, but you also have to respect the fact that it may or may not happen. There's no guarantee of that senior housing.
Jim, is it not, it's around town and been talked about, maybe the city manager can tell us, most of the houses, D.A. Horton or whatever it is, they are spec homes. They expecting somebody to buy them. They not sold.
No.
We understand.
Half of them are sold.
Huh?
Half of them are sold when they build it. About half of them are. They have a tendency to sell the ones that they don't have up within weeks, within 3 or 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
Amazing.
Hit the next button. Now, because there's been questions about whether 50 new homes or 20 new homes, I did an analysis based on only 20 new homes. Well, if only 20 new homes came in over the next 8 years, 7 years, the first year of that new debt service, 29% of it's covered, but it's paid at, it'll be, that debt service will be covered with those 20 new homes per year by year 7 out of 20. So I wanted to give and I think 50, like Mr. Baker said, he received a preliminary plat for 165 lots on the next phase of Georgetown this week. It'll be on the next planning commission agenda and the council agenda to go forward. So, I mean, we're the first 165 are going to be there. He's, you know, it's on its way.
That's not assured either.
That's not assured either, but
We needed one right over here for 125 units.
there's a developer out there that has enough
We were given
confidence.
the old well in South Grayson, part of his charge to the city for doing it, and it's still in crop.
Yep.
So it's not assured.
It's not assured, but there's a developer out there ready to put the infrastructure on the ground.
And they haven't put that Walmart in it yet. But once they do, look
We
out,
had
guys.
builders that was here, ready to go, and Blaylock, like Jim or somebody said, he went broke, and builders that never did build nothing. And, I mean, I don't know whether he bought the land, how the land, I don't even know how the taxes, is nothing like that, down on, County Line Road. That's where Billingsley was gonna build $250,000, $300,000 home. What's the deal on that now?
Billingsley's he's building homes in Midland, Odessa, and there's several other developers that are looking at that property that are trying to
buy it? So Billingsley really owns the property?
Billingsley still owns that property.
Okay.
He's been in, for
For
the last 6-8 months, he's been coming in. The main thing is, you know, as far as the hard and fast, you're talking about palladium, and we're talking about the 165 lots. The earliest that those lots can be built on would be this time next year. So it's not anything that's going to happen this summer. Most of the dirt will be moved around this summer. D.R. Horton still has the lots that they purchased inside of Georgetown on the second phase, and that's where they're focusing their attention.
Where is the 165 home gonna be built?
It'll be on the south side, sir, in between Billingsley's and the elementary on the south side of
All the way
Georgetown.
out to Kelly Road.
And when do we have to start paying on this? If we do it, when do the payments start?
Payments start, they start 6 months after the loan closes.
So
And it can take how long between now and when the loan closes? Timeline, ballpark?
4 to 6 months.
So we're looking at another year?
Yeah, we're looking at another year before the debt is incurred, which gives us, would give the council a good idea of how, you know, that these things are really happening. You know, in the last
Once we make the commitment, we're committed.
And we have to make it by April.
There's still a huge if, and I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but I have seen from the history of talking to previous council members and talking to the public, Blaylock said, hey, Van Alstyne, you better get ready, because here we come, and we did.
And we did.
And they left
You
with
got it.
empty lots and all their promises. We have to be cautious about getting in that trap again.
Well, that just means the next time someone wants to go in there, we don't have to do anything.
Well, that would be,
We just sit back and let them build and be done with it. And then that's all this money right here, isn't
Cut
it?
the impact fee in half. That's what we did for
But
D.R.
you-
Horton.
to get them to come
but
in.
you're going to be paying on your water rate for that if they build for years or.
We made some concessions with Blaylock and Billingsley when we was on the council. And what we done, I hate to say it to the people, but we got beat bad. Like we got beat on that water line too. And that tank down there, that Billings, I think Billings wanted to give us that tank and pump down there, but Blaylock.
This old boy over here, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either.
That's the
But
old
we,
girl.
I mean, what I'm tired of seeing Van Alstyne do is get beat.
Well, this council has reinstituted the impact fees and said, you're going to pay your share. They have done the block rate, where if the people who are abusing their water use have, well, now obviously as these many meetings are feeling that effect of abusing the water. And, I mean, that's part of
I'll tell you
it.
one thing, I hate to, I don't know how to say this, but you said it coming, this man said the water bill keep going up, nobody's coming. So I don't see how nobody comes.
Well, I can't imagine that 20 people wouldn't move here anyway. Because typically we've had, what, 50-something permits pulled What was it the year before? What was it the year before?
The year before, during the downturn, it was like 12 and 6 and 12, but before that, it was 08. Before the crash was 100 and some odd. So, but I mean, during 09
It's
through
been trending upwards, not going back down.
it's trending upwards, and this year was a 400% increase.
And
You
Anna
went-
and Melissa have been trending upwards.
Well, Frank, the 54 permits that you pulled, can I come by in the 2 or 3 days and get an address on those 54 houses that's supposed to be built now? I don't know where they are.
We can pull them up. I mean, 99% of them are in Georgetown. So, sure.
Okay, we're gonna
Okay.
need to move on.
Yeah, okay.
Move along.
I got one more slide then.
Okay.
I got- And, you know, and the top part, and what I've been talking about is just how we pay for the new debt that provide that service. The other thing is it lowers the pump costs. We get back, you know, it lowers the groundwater. We now have to pay groundwater fees for everything we take out of the ground. And we get to utilize that in this year, in this budget year, it's $161,000 that the citizens of Van Alstyne are paying for that CGMA water that they're not even using. $161,000 just goes straight to CGMA. Why?
Yeah, but I don't think we ought to, when we can use the water, I believe, a whole lot cheaper than $3 million. I think that's what we need to do.
The payback with schedule, you know, is there. And then obviously the operational efficiencies is you don't have to build the storage tank on the west side full. It defers it for a little while. Next. And then I had questions.
I think we've asked those as we go along.
Yeah.
There's questions. Thank you.
But you're using, it would defer the storage tank.
It defers.
Well, this short-term fix to take water would defer this 3.4 million too, is that not correct?
We'd have to look and see what it would take to do that and get the water to pump there.
Defer the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
Have you guys looked at that? I mean, I'd just like to see, I mean, if you've looked at, because it still seems to me that if we go down this route, right, we're still a year away from doing anything.
Yes.
Whereas you've got a line sitting out there today that I don't understand why you haven't already done it. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to figure out, I mean, somebody put a number to that for me and figure out what it takes to get that line from over there so you can tie Georgetown in and a couple of pumps. And I mean, it's an 8-inch line. You said your lines are a little bit big anyway. That 8 inch is going to give you somewhat of a battery. You know, I mean, I just don't, I'm trying to figure out if that's something you could do today and start saving a little bit and not really cost yourself. I'm just wondering if you could do that today and not alleviate some of the pressure on you trying to get water out of wells that ain't making it.
I mean, that's every well. I mean, if you, I've checked the GMTA, and just even Sherman has dropped all their wells in the Trinity and Woodbine over 120 to 130 feet. I mean, we're seeing in our wells, I'm fixing to test all my wells to see how much my water column has dropped anyway, even in well 5, which is not going to help us if well 5 goes down.
Right.
Because it's my biggest supply.
Okay.
I guess short term here, thinking about water supply, I guess the CGMA, that seems to be maybe the best fix as far as in giving us some water back up here. But we first need to decide or figure out, do we actually have a line that's in place? It seems to be that there should have been, but there probably isn't, and there, I don't know what the deal is there. I guess that would be step one is, do we have a line that's actually connected? Second thing was,
And if we don't, we need to find the cost for it.
yeah, the second thing would be to get to the top, what is the actual cost? What is the actual cost? If there's not a line, what is the actual cost for supplying that line and appropriately treating that line? That would be your short term, I think, fix to help us out and get that pressure
Who
up.
would calculate or create that dollar figure? Are you the one that would do that?
The question I have is the short-term answer over the long run the right answer? Or is it just adding costs because we've done this, now we have to do the other? Still, Now, we've got additional costs in the long run.
Right.
That seems to me like that's what would be the case, with all due respect to your expertise, and I understand that. But I think we have to think long-term. I know, but it could be more costly over the long run to do it piecemeal.
I
inspected that line or I didn't find out
think the
connected it up.
infrastructure addition makes sense, don't get me wrong. But I do think in the short term, you know, you're kind of penalizing your city because you're not wanting people to use water when you can alleviate that pressure by just doing a simple fix.
Wasn't
or
that-
a relatively simple fix.
Wasn't that actually part of the long-term solution?
Right.
That is the
We just
long-term.
haven't,
Long-term, I mean,
we haven't done the final step with that particular long-term.
being able to grab it. And the, like I said, the chemistry's changed a little
Right.
bit, and the state requirements have changed a little bit, that make it a little bit more difficult, but it's not that big a deal.
Okay.
The 3.5, just so everybody, $3.5 million project was assumed to take it in at well 3, which is off of Humphreys.
Main.
Humphreys in Main.
South Main.
Okay, and then run a spine straight across towards the west side of town, so that becomes the main spine for water that serves it south and north and provides water for the entire city from that one point in you know, so. And there was already, the record drawings show that connection being stubbed that way, but like I said, it was crossed out and said it wasn't installed, but the connection point, everything in well 3 was already there to go. I mean, it was in the plans that way.
That's right, but it was changed. There was a change order to move it after this developer gave us, bought, and refurnished that well of South Grayson's to make that our take point and not the Carl Humphrey Street well.
Okay, so there's a change order and there aren't 2 different take points?
No,
No,
just one.
no.
It's just one take point.
It was moved,
One.
Frank,
It was moved
from
from
3
Humphrey.
to 6.
That's right. And I don't know why, it's
Wait,
no
it was
record
supposed to
city
be
hall
moved.
is showing that.
Kimberly, one of your comments
Took
that
it other
made
line
in-
out I'm talking about.
you, by doing a short-term
We
fix,
run water for
you
years
reduce the risk,
down
the
there.
gamble
That tank, that well, they know good.
if those houses are going to be built, if the development's going to be done. Granted, it may cost slightly more, but you reduce the risk and the gamble. You're not rolling dice on a situation where we create that line that should have already been there. We're reducing the gamble and we're reducing the cost to the current residents of Van Alstyne instead of giving that cost to the future residents. I see your point. I'd like to just fix everything at one time, but we've got to do it in a thrifty manner and not on this gamble, because Blaylocks have proven to us that you can't depend on somebody's promise that they're going to build a house.
And I understand exactly what you're saying, Jim, and we all know and understand that Blaylock is more of a local deal versus a national home builder.
Right.
And when the national home builder comes in, like D.R. Horton, and says they're going to build, they're going to build. And so I think you have to kind of weigh that too, is who is coming in to expand the city? Who are we going to allow to come in to expand the city, and are we ready for that?
But D.R. Horton cut back what he had initially said. He is not building what he promised to build.
He promised to build out Georgetown, he promised the north addition, and then he was going to promise that south addition, and backed out of those 2. So even a national builder may regroup after their stocks went down $10 a share. They backed up. So even the national company's going to look at something and say, wait, we got to go somewhere where we can sell houses. And right now they're selling houses in Anna left and right at the expense of Van Alstyne. And they're selling houses, according to the last brochure I saw, the same house is $20,000 more in Anna than it is in Van Alstyne. So they're going to go where the profit is, and if there's a question, they're going to back down, just like they did. And you can't.
Okay.
Mayor?
Just a moment. Just a moment. Can I have your attention, please? Now, we have heard from the audience. We have discussed it. I would like input from each one of
Somebody keeps cutting me off, Shannon. I would like this may come out real strong. Right now, come on. Okay.
Have I got it? I got it. So at this time, I would like, we have gotten so far from what this agenda is. Do you realize the agenda item for tonight is discussion regarding utility rates established by Ordinance 699? We didn't get to what our agenda item was. But we have gotten a lot of input. We have gotten a lot of input from you. And we're going to have some recommendations. Right now, I would like to have some comments from the other council members. And I will start with Billy Plake. And you notice I pronounced the correct name.
Yeah, I'm not related to you anymore, right?
Yeah. I changed his name in the last note I put out, but I'm going to rechange it in my newsletter again. We'll see what it is.
The main things that I wanted to discuss a little bit was, and this goes back to the present discussion, is I know a lot of people in Georgetown are not looking forward to that, us ever being hooked up to that water. And so they will, fight you because of that. I know it's inevitable and someday it's going to happen. Their biggest complaint is that probably most of the sprinkler systems in town exist in Georgetown. As soon as we hook up to that water, we're now going to be controlled by Melissa, McKinney, Plano, on down that direction will control how much we can water. Whether we can water once a week, once every other week, what they want us to do. Even though we can have all kinds of water, they'll be decided.
How many are here from Georgetown tonight?
I don't have any idea. About 6, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I wouldn't count the council. We're looking at you.
That's part of the idea. Then also what I'm hearing is that if we hook this up now and we hook up to the water that's there and start running Georgetown with it, then if something goes wrong with that pump, are we talking about Georgetown now goes on boiling and that kind of thing, and that will now happen?
We will try to, we would propose a redundant system that wouldn't allow that to happen, so.
Okay.
I mean,
so as long as there is water in that stream coming up there, we would be okay.
Yes, it's going to be more than just a simple connection. There's got to be a back connection also to make sure you have, water systems are done in loops so that you maintain pressure. If you lose pressure, you can valve it off and then get water through the back door, basically.
Okay. Okay. Then the next question I have is relating to rates. Can I do that?
You certainly can.
Okay.
That's
Kurt,
on the agenda.
Kurt, I want to talk to you about, you have some places in here that you put a rate for consideration proposed by all over.
Now, where is the spreadsheet you're
That's
from?
the one he gave us last week.
This is the one from the city.
No, this is the one that he gave us, like 5 or 6 of them.
Oh,
I just have a question about it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the one that says Alderman Jennings and Alderman Moore, you said it was wrong, the first one. Then the second one, corrected postal proposal versus October 2012 rate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that one, is it supposed to have correct numbers?
That, from our perspective, that's basically what the proposals, the numbers should have been.
Okay.
Yes.
So based on this, then you're seeing that,
We're looking at
the minimum use customer will get a 2% increase over their rates back in October of 2012.
Base rates, yes. Correct proposal versus October 2012 rates.
And somebody, our average user would probably see about an 9 to 10%. If he's 7,000. At 7,000. So
yeah, somewhere between 8 and 16%.
Okay. But the maximum worst guy out there at 60,000 would see a 27%. Or now he's like 90% or something like that.
When you said 27%?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's from the October 1st. That was the October 13th compared to the 2013 compared to the October 1st, 2012
Okay.
rate.
And looking at this, the base rate for a 2-inch pump would also go down from what it presently is now, because it's based off of.
Not a 2-inch, no.
I thought the 2-inch was based off of the 3/4. I mean the 5/8 inch times 128 or something like that.
Well, I didn't see any actual numbers for 2 inch, because the numbers that we saw were slated for 5/8 and 3/4. So I don't know how you projected out for anything larger than that. So
Okay,
I
down
don't know how it works.
down in the report, there was places down there that told what the rates were for 2 inch, 3 inch. It was in an individual page.
Okay, I've got the spreadsheet numbers showing the proposals.
Okay.
What you see up at the top.
Just that part.
That's what I had to go on. When we asked for the proposals, that's what I had to go on. If it was included, I and my brother missed that as far as the increase going to the others.
No problem. Okay, and just for everybody's information, I'm thinking that seems to be, it doesn't hurt anybody real bad. So it is, I think it's a fairly good proposal to come across with that doesn't, the one that was for Moore and Jennings. That just, it doesn't, it definitely helps the school out, I think, in the long run, and it definitely helps the big user out, quite a bit. Okay.
Now, are you referring to, you were referring to the spreadsheet that Mr. Bremer has done?
Yeah,
Is that
but
correct?
it's the same one as on our handout. It's the same one that was presented for for Jennings and Moore. This one here.
Okay, we did, for those who weren't here, we did have, each one did an input, and they sent, we had four different spreadsheets made out. So what you're saying is the one that Mr. Bremer did was very, very close to the one
Yeah, he just got the
that was
numbers more
presented.
accurate. He got the numbers done right.
His numbers are done right. And I'm putting this on tape. Okay. Next, Mr. Moore, do you have any comments you want to make at this time?
Yes. I feel like as far as the water rates go, that we proved last week that we can definitely get this adjusted where it's more comfortable for everybody. I mean, I was looking at the spreadsheets, and that was a pretty drastic change, just looking at the Jennings Moore one. In reviewing all of that, it looked like we could get those adjusted and make some good headway. And also, I am, after reviewing and looking at it, I am in favor of the winter averaging. And I know it may be difficult for us to get to that point, but at some point I think it would be good to try to figure that out. And then, and of course that covers the sewer, which I'm very much in agreement on, because nearly every new construction going out there has got irrigation, whether it's commercial or residential, it's going to have irrigation. And it's so costly to put in that extra water meter, it just makes sense. You know, that's a much simpler and cost-effective solution. So personally, I feel like that we've made really good headway and we can get water rates fixed. The second part I wanted to add is to your presentation. I worked for developers for 20 years, and a couple of them are pretty big Dallas developers, and I stay in close contact with a lot of the money guys with those developers. Some of you may know the Trammell Crow organization. I worked for them for about 8 years. And when we would go into a new town or any development that we'd do, it was always in an area that was going to need infrastructure. So the first thing we do is do all of the studies. How are we going to get water and sewer to these places? How is the municipality, what are they going to do to help us get it there? What is their plan? Are we even going to be able to get it there? And then what's the time frame? And what's been going on in the past 24 months, and I'm not kidding, the past 24 months, the city of Van Alstyne has had more development interests into this town and buying property. I mean, property's been bought by big name developers. They're investing money in plans. They don't invest money in plans until they know that they are planning to do it. There are people, a lot of people investing money and time and a lot of money in plans to do these subdivisions, commercial equities, and this Palladium, they're investing money. Of course, they're relying on council to support them in that to be able to win their bid to get there. All of these pieces coming together, they're all asking the same question. What is the city of Van Alstyne going to be able to provide for me and when? So whenever they make a decision to hit the ground, they're going to say, City of Van Alstyne, this is when we want to get this installed. Can you provide it to us? And whenever we say, well, we can by this time, they say that's not good enough, then they have engineers come to us, the council, and says, we have to fast pace this. Well, what happens when we have to fast pace? Prices go up. Look at McKinney.
Well, they can pay for it.
Look at McKinney. The 75 is the prime example of the biggest mistake in Texas history and the city of McKinney. They waited too long for 75. It's costing them, from what I've heard, 10 times what it was supposed to cost them to expand that highway because of the timing that they imposed the expansion. The timing is perfect, and what he proposed shows how it can be paid for. And from my inside, it looks very promising. Looks very promising.
Thank you. Our new council member. Nothing like getting your feet wet.
Well, as a relatively newcomer to Van Alstyne and even newer comer to the council, a lot of this information is it's interesting. What I see is there are people that know the history of this town. They know what's been going on in the past. We have a present council who's dealing with the problem that has arisen over a number of years that needs to be fixed. But we have a new set of eyes over here that is helping us with the engineering of the thing. My initial assessment in a nutshell is that these problems have existed and compounded over a number of years. It's not going to be fixed overnight. I think the suggestion of the alternatives of the quick fix, which were discussed about doing the temporary fix there south of town, with the understanding that globally everything is going to be unified. It'll buy us time to get things in order and develop a concrete plan of how the city needs to progress. And you know, how we do that, we're going to have to come together and find out what kind of solution we're going to have. We've got a lot of great ideas here, and I think that we should use the expertise of everyone involved to determine what we're going to do. That being said.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, Councilman Smith.
I basically am going to have the same message I've had before. When I got my water bill at the restaurant, it was still the same as it's always been. That means that this rate increase has not affected me, and it should. My bill at the restaurant should be more than it was before the rate increase went into effect, and it hasn't. There's something wrong that's causing my rate to stay the same and everybody else to have high rates. There's something wrong with what we did, and I'm going to be the first one to say, I don't know. I don't have the expertise. I don't have the training. I don't have the knowledge to create a water rate for a municipality. That's not in my background at all. I know how to create a menu price, and that's theoretically the same thing. You take your cost and create an amount that makes your company profitable. I don't have the expertise to do this, and I've had an occasion to talk to council members from a lot of different towns in the course of the last couple of months. From what I have, the interaction that I've had with other council members and other city employees, why is the council, why is there a Karen Teuber, why is there a rate schedule from her? Why is there one from me? We're not the ones that have the expertise to do that. I will admit, I don't have the expertise to create that rate schedule, but I've been asked to do it. And I'm here to say that we obviously have done something wrong. If we increased water rates, water sales from $69,000 to $200,000 with a rate increase, we did something wrong, and it needs to be corrected. The low end is going to have to carry more of the weight. My bill should have gone up, and it hasn't. And my usage has stayed pretty close to the same. I think we need to be extremely cautious with the money that we commit. We're looking at adding $5 million more debt to the city. Part of it's already been approved, and we're asking for more. The citizens have got to understand that that's got to be paid for. The loan for our water line, as an example, and James, I hope you still like me after this, and I hope that we can talk about it and I can hear what the thinking was when it was done. That note was $2.2 million for the water line. We signed the note in 2007. We're paying interest only through 2024. 2025, we still owe the $2.2 million. Now, that was planned for long-term. It'll come, it'll happen, it'll be here. We went from 2007 to 2024 paying interest only on that note. 2025, we've got to start paying interest and principal. Will we be able to handle that? That's another expense that we're going to have in addition to all of these increments that we have. We've got to start paying the principal on that note. It's a factor that we need to think about. We need to do what we can do. We need to have a plan that we can activate as quickly as possible. But we cannot put this city in further debt on a hope and a promise. That's right. Because we've seen the hope and the promise file bankruptcy and leave town.
That's right.
I think the rates need to be, the low end needs to pick up more of it. We can't afford to charge $500 a month for a meter, whether you use water or not. That discourages growth. That's got to come down. We have people in this audience that have given more input and more positive comments than we've had at workshops, because there are people that know what they're talking about. This gentleman right here, he knows what he's talking about. I don't have I would never be able to even carry a conversation with you because I don't know what you know, but I'm being asked to make decisions, and I would admit that I can't do it. I don't know how. I need that input. Is what we were told in the past right? Is what we're told in the currently right? We have got to put our trust in somebody, and that's going to be a hard thing for me to commit to, because I've heard all of these stories ever since I've been here that it cost $90,000 to tap into that line for a chlorinator, basically, and that's proven to not be true. What Flannery has told me and others is not true in today's language. It was true when you did it, but it's not true in today's language. The rates, we need to, the very first thing, we need to go back, I don't care how many months it takes, we need to take the effective date back to the 1st of October. The retroactive thing should be eliminated. I don't care how many hours we have to spend, that's your job to do it, it's the city. And it doesn't have to all be done in 1 month. You can take part of those 130 a month for the next 12 months and refund the money that should not have been collected. Change the rates to where the low end picks up more, and be very, very cautious about the money we commit this town to owe. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
Well, first off, at the last meeting, I did ask that I be given, or that everyone be given the debt per capita rate for loans and for bonds. And to date, I have not seen that. So I do request, because if we're going to take on more debt, I want to know what we currently owe per citizen. And the second thing is that at the last meeting, we went down the line and without notice, were asked to give a rate. But we have nothing from the staff as to what they suggest for a rate increase or a projection, or for, not a projection, but for what the rates should be, what the water rates are. It's not, well, Jim said, we don't have the expertise. It's not my job to do that. It's to examine what has been proposed and then either approve or deny. So I think that the city staff has failed there in giving us the guidance that's needed to make a good decision.
You were presented
Okay.
one by the TCEQ rate adjuster, and that was staff's recommendation there.
Oh, okay.
But that wasn't acceptable to everyone. So,
And I understand,
okay.
that, but that was staff's recommendation. Just like what Jim's talking about, that's not in our wheelhouse. We got the opportunity for TCEQ to pay for a rate adjustment. That's exactly what we did. They came in, and that's the recommendation. That's the recommendation that staff took to council. He showed you what the variables were, what you had the opportunity to play with, and that's what we did through 2 months of workshops.
Okay. You've heard from I've heard from the staff. I've heard from the council, and I've heard from you. This is my solution, and it may not be agreeable to the council, and it may not be agreeable to you, but we haven't got all that far tonight. We have discussed everything from pumps to lines. We have discussed things that one person has the knowledge and the other doesn't. So this is what I would like to recommend that council think about, and the audience also. I would like to see a committee put together of you and our city manager, and that you would represent the general public. We have people in this audience who are knowledgeable. We have Mr. Klum. I see you, you're hidden back there, but I still see you. He is knowledgeable. We have Mr. Bramer. He has a spreadsheet. I'd like to see him bring that spreadsheet to a committee meeting and go over it. Even Mr. Plate said that it was a good proposal. It was close to the Jennings Moore proposal. That's something I would like to see this committee go together, work together on these rates. Also, Mr. Moore said the winter averaging. We have knowledge in this audience. We have knowledge from our engineer. And if we all combine this knowledge, we're going to get a lot further. I'd like to see Mr. Flannery on this committee. He served on the council before. I would say he knows where the bodies are buried, but we're going to have to say he knows where the lines are buried. But there are things that were promised that never came through. The lines are there, and you need past knowledge the same way you need new knowledge. So So that's someone else I would like to see on this committee. I would like for this committee to look at what Mr. Moore said in the winter averaging. Mr. Jaska, I think that we need to look into the quick fix. Not that we're going to make it for a long term, but that it is something that will relieve the pressure. As Mr. Smith said, we have a lot of knowledge in this audience and expertise that perhaps the council doesn't have. He would like to see this looked into changing this retroactive that we had and maybe see how feasible it was to do it over a period of time. Ms. Tarver, she would like the debt per capita. This is something that this committee and our city manager can find out and present. You could do all of these things and present it back to the council for consideration. But I think until we have a committee that's going to stay focused, do what we need to do, and take the recommendations of the council and work something up, I think this would be one solution for this problem. You don't have to do it, but this is what I think would help us in what we do. But while we're at it, there's more to it than just that rate. Because in this it says, discussion regarding utility rates established by ordinance number 699. Now, I want to give you my recommendation on that. And I have given it once before, and I want to give it again. Because if you're going to work on that ordinance, whoever works on that ordinance, I think it's just as important that we work on something to see that this never, ever happens again. I think it's important. I have read it before, and I'm going to read it again. I think it's important that we look at the statement of intent to change rates. The Texas Water Code, section 13.187, and yes, I know it doesn't apply to us, but it is a good guideline for us to set some rules by. A utility may not make changes, it could be a city, in its rate except by delivering a statement of intent to each ratepayer. That could be with the newsletter, but it would go to everyone who got water from the city. They would know that there was an intent to make these changes. Then this would be 60 days before the effective date of the proposed change. Not a change just because this is how we've always done it, because we haven't always done it right. That doesn't make it right. And we need to think about how we present these things. So this is something else to consider in this ordinance, because we would not have charged for water you'd already used if we had changed that. So maybe it's time that if we do decide to have this committee, that we look into that also. And that with the effective date of the new rates must be the first day of the billing period. So the new rates may not apply to service received before the effective date of the new rates. And then it has what that must have with it. And that is the information required, which would be a billing comparison regarding the existing water rates and the new water rates that would be computed by the different uses. If this is in our ordinance, then we would never again be charging for water you had already used, and all of our citizens would know what was coming, when it was coming, and the amount would already be computed correctly. This is something that I really think needs to be considered by this committee. Even though this isn't for our city, this is something that we do need, in effect. So at this time, that's my suggestion on this ordinance. Because you have to go through everything. You can't just hit one thing. If something's done wrong, you need to correct all of it and not just parts of it. So this is my suggestion of what I think needs to be changed in this ordinance. And if this ordinance is to be changed with the rates, if we're going to change those rates and establishment, we also need to include the intent of the changes of the rates to be included in that. This is my suggestion, and it doesn't stand just for the people that I have mentioned on this committee. I would suggest that anyone in this audience who has an interest, you don't have to have the knowledge, but has an interest and wants an input, could do that. Because we get so far away from what we are supposed to be focusing on that, you know, we're here tonight to see about a change in this ordinance. But we're not going to accomplish it, I don't believe. We have so much good input, but we've got to put that input to use. And we could do that with a committee of the people I have mentioned. I didn't ask if you wanted to serve. I just said the people that are here. I did not say the council, because I think that what you should do is bring these ideas that the council has suggested and the other to the council for their consideration. We do have to be careful about our meeting. So what I'm proposing is a committee meeting of citizens and our city manager. We have an engineering firm. We can have it all. But together we can come up with what this says, a discussion, a recommendation on utility rates and the ordinance number 699, and let's change that ordinance to where it is acceptable to the public and to the council. So, at this time, I cannot ask the council for a vote, but I believe with the attorney here, I can ask if they have an objection to my recommendation.
Mayor, I do think that the council can come to a consensus. What we've said about tonight's meeting is that the council cannot take final action.
That's correct.
On any item. But I do think that the council can give direction and can come to a consensus about direction. Okay.
A consensus about direction. One direction is the recommendation of appointing a committee. We'll start back down here with you, Mr. Clay.
My feelings are that I like the idea that they come in like in sessions like this and work sessions and tell us what they believe. I even present their own opinions and their own spreadsheets. I like that, you know, we get information from past councilmen and information, but I think that it's a function of the council to listen to those things and then make decisions based on it, not turn it over to a committee to come with a recommendation. I think it's more of our responsibility. If we don't have the knowledge, then that's where we talk to our engineer and get knowledge about what we need to know, or whoever it is that we need that knowledge from. But I don't feel like we should turn it over to a committee or some, you know, group being together, because it's you know, not their job. People elected us to do this job, whether we do it right, wrong, or otherwise. They elected us.
Okay. Mr. Moore?
I can see the benefits of the committee. I think obviously the people would have to be cooperative in choosing to do that. I'm very willing, I guess is the actual word.
Yes.
And you know, obviously our city manager and our engineering firm would have to be willing to participate in it as well, because they have, well, especially our engineering firm has the expertise in this. You know, I think the critical thing with the water rates is, Mr. Baker did say that, you know, they did bring in the specialist that gave us this, and, you know, we as a council really didn't like it. It would, I mean, where he brought it, it wasn't, we didn't like it. We brought it down and still, it obviously, we didn't even get it good. We didn't get it good either. So, I guess, I don't have a problem with the committee for input. I definitely think the professionals need to be involved to make sure that when it does get to council, it is presented by the professionals as the committee work together to do it.
Okay. Mr. Jessica?
Okay. I support a committee of citizens. I'm not saying leave it exclusively to them. I would say, as the mayor suggested, any or all of the council members that would volunteer to serve on that committee could serve. Also, I think the Public Works Director over there is probably the most knowledgeable of what our current situation is. I would recommend that he would be on that committee also. Again, yes, Billy is correct that it's the council's ultimate responsibility to make the decision, but I believe that we do need input from people in the community, because if we make the wrong decision, the people in the community are the ones that are going to be mad at us. So, you know, we need their help. I would gladly accept their help. You know, I see that, you know, we're all in this thing together. I mean, everybody's going to pay whatever the water rates are. Everybody is going to take on the burden of the debt if need be. Therefore, I think we all need to work together on it, and the public should have a voice, whether council chooses to use that or take their recommendation. That's council's responsibility, and council who actually takes that, you know, eventually takes that action. But I support a committee.
Councilman Smith?
I like the committee idea, but it needs to be, we need to include engineers and especially Steve White. I agree with that. We have some knowledge in this audience that this council collectively didn't have. And we need that. And we need your help. We want to get it right. We want to do the right thing. And we have a big task ahead of us to make up for some years. So as long as our engineering company and our public works director is involved with the committee, I think that'd be a great idea.
Well, the committee was recommended way back when the petitions were turned in, and I agreed then and I agree now that a committee of citizens is a good idea. We do have to be careful with the Open Meetings Act that if council members participate, that
That's
it is...
why I didn't include it.
I know, but I'm saying if council members are included, we do have to abide by the Open Meetings Act. I would like to know what's going on because I get so little knowledge, input from staff, so I would like to hear what's going on so I have a good understanding of it. And, you know, some of the citizens do come to, at least they talk to me, and, you know, one thing that was recommended that with the billing, and this, we didn't go over number 3 or so on the agenda there, but a lot of the utilities talk about, or they do income, or averaging over the year. And that was recommended to me too, especially for those people on fixed incomes, and it would again require staff work to go back a year or two to find out what the yearly thing is and divide it by 12 and then charge the people so much per month, and then at the end of the year to adjust.
Okay, then you are for the committee, is that correct?
Well, I said I was before and I am still.
Okay. You are for the committee, Mr. Smith's for the committee, Mr. Jessica, Mr. Moore has no objections, Billy, you would prefer not the committee, is that correct?
What is this?
Well,
Is it just not for the rates? I'm just asking.
this is a spur of the moment thing, let me work it out a minute.
Just the rates?
No, it's not just the rates. It is the ordinance, I can't look. It is the ordinance itself. This is what discuss regarding utility rates established in the ordinance number 699. My recommendation was also that we look into the way that we do the rates. If we're going to talk about the rates and ask people to volunteer to be on this committee, that would be when they would meet. What they would bring to that would be up to our city manager, because he would be the one who would do this committee. It would include, we would really need to include our engineers if they were agreeable. We would need our director of public works. They could do just about whatever they wanted to do because it would be open. You've got, as I read a while ago, you've got this winter averaging that Mr. Morris suggested. You've got the change, the retro charge that we did. Check into that and bring the results of what they've got to the council. They cannot make any decisions, but they can take their knowledge, pool it together, and see if we can come up with something that would be acceptable or for the consideration of the council. The meetings would have to be set up by Mr. Baker, and we would have to see who would, and it's not something I would appoint to a committee. It is something that would have to be on a volunteer basis.
Okay. Oh, what are you asking then?
I'm asking you if that would be agreeable with you.
Well, I still have the problem with, I don't have a problem with them coming to the work sessions and advising us. I just hate to see them spend their time coming up with a set of, this is what we think you ought to do, and then we may or may not, listen to any of it. And some of it, the money return, the rules for posting, raises and things like that. I think that's all still just stuff that's fairly simple stuff the council does, not, and also I think unless they have the knowledge of all the reasons why we're raising the rates, because of the problems we have in this infrastructure in town that we're trying to fix, then it doesn't make sense to raise the rates unless you have all of it in place. And that's our job to balance out those differences, not a group's. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
I just thank you for the time. Thank you guys for allowing us to be a part of this tonight. I just want to say, if you have citizens that are willing to give their knowledge, give their time for free, they're not charged, they're not asking you to pay them for it. They're doing it because they care about what's being talked about. So I don't see why you would not listen to that. Not saying you have it, but in my experience, when someone doesn't listen to that, it's usually because of a sense of pride or an agenda they have. Again, not saying that's you, but Why would you not want to listen to what somebody?
I like this forum where we get to listen. But we're getting to listen here. If you guys go off into a a back room and decide what the rates ought to be and what this be and what your what all your stuff should do, then that's not us as a council making those decisions.
I agree, and I think that everyone going into this committee would need to understand, they're not making a decision, they're just putting a package together for you guys to make a decision.
Teddy, I got one thing to say.
Okay.
And I know you remember, you don't like to go back, but this council, when you was the mayor and I was the council person, we listened to the people. The people was our boss. And evidently, Mr. Plate don't think that we have anything to say, but we're the one that pays the cost to be the boss.
I just
so
said I'd like to have you come into the
I'd
like to have you present your stuff before the council.
Only way you're on the council, these people here put you on there.
That's
so
right.
You're supposed to listen to them.
I understand that.
Okay. What we have is just a disagreement on how it is presented.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I've lived here all night and I've listened to everybody talk.
Okay.
When you appoint a committee, it's all going to go back to the council. The council is going to have the last say. But you're getting input from the citizens in this town, and you're not getting petitions. Y'all understand what I'm saying? There's no reason why you can't appoint 4 citizens, and you've got your engineer, your city manager, and your public works director. You have 7 people to go together and come up with a way to solve the problem. But it still has to go back to the council. Billy Plate forgot that. Y'all still have the last say-so. Okay? I mean, quit arguing about it and do something about it and make it work.
Okay.
Yeah, am I not correct, Madam Attorney? There could be 2 members of this council on that committee, and that 2-member representation of the council pretty well would know, I think, what the council would be willing to accept. If that would help Mr. Flake any, I think we would still be legal in the open meeting laws of the state of Texas. Is that correct?
If there are less than a quorum of council members that participate, the posting required by the Open Meetings Act is not necessary.
Okay.
So would the committee be bringing stuff like adopting that form? I don't understand what actually the committee would be doing.
The committee would be doing with the ordinance number 699, which is the ordinance that sets the rates, the rules, how it's done, the effective dates, this sort of thing. And my suggestion on how it was presented would also be in that, so that it would be included in this ordinance.
Do we need a committee to do that if they've already heard all of that?
We need a way to put all of this together. We cannot make a motion for anything tonight.
Right.
So we have all this input, but where does it go from this? Do we go back to the next council meeting and we bring up ordinance number 699 again, and it comes to this discussion? We need, you know, you can go on, and but the bottom line is, this is what we have on the agenda, and this is what we're trying to get done. So that was just a recommendation. I'm open for any recommendation, but we have knowledge in the audience. We have knowledge with our engineers and our city manager. We can have council members to work in a group and put together a plan. We can just keep on listening, but we have some input as to what the council did think, and that is what I came up with, but I'm open to anything.
If there's 5 people representing, how many people in this city?
3,000, over 3,000.
So, I mean, let's
And that number doesn't even have to be that number. That's just a number.
Right, yeah, but it's a minimal amount of people that represent a large body of people. So if you have part of that body that's speaking to you, then why not listen?
That's right.
You know, I mean, we escaped the tyrannical government 200-something years ago, so we could all come together to agree.
Be we the people.
It's easy to get defensive when you're in charge of something. I understand that it's so easy to get defensive when you're in charge of something, and there's people who raise their voice about it, but that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That means they care about what's going on in where they live. I mean, that's something we should be proud of, and to be happy that we have people that are here.
Well, I'm saying, we haven't, it's true, like, the man back there is an expert on water, water systems, how they fit together. With him and talking to the engineers, Flannery, talking to them, they can sort of figure out where we are on that, and then give us good advice about where to go as far as that loan is concerned, and how you can get around by getting the loan and that kind of stuff. I agree with that. Okay, the rates, there is no professional rate people in this house, in this building. Or there might be one in the town, I don't know. So we have a professional that gave us a program and told us what it was going to do. And we've seen that. And we've seen what percentage of increase it gave everybody. And I'd like to see us work with it as a council. Now, the other parts, I don't have a problem with. But that part I do have. That's something that I don't see how a group that gets, do you work with rates?
No, Billy, I kind of agree with you, and as far as what the mayor asked, on how ordinances are presented to the council, and those are things that the council should just make those changes. You guys should never take an ordinance that doesn't have an effective date with it.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You voted on an ordinance that you didn't even have an effective date for it, on the ordinance.
Yeah.
And that should never even be brought to council. And so those things are things that the council should make those changes, and just make the change and move on.
I agree.
Okay.
But make them now, hurry up.
I'd like to.
Yeah, you've kind of been through a couple of...
beating a dead horse.
Yeah, you guys have kind of been through a couple of changes. I think even you guys kind of have an idea of where the rate thing needs to go, right?
I thought we did.
I would say no, you don't. But
I would agree with that.
I would say you need some further investigation on the whole rate structure to include the meter rates, because the meter rates, from looking around to other cities, are pretty far out of line, the base meter rates, and then your increments and increase. I would say you need a little more in-depth look, and most of that information is out there to be had. It's all public knowledge, so you can get some ideas and general feelings or thoughts as to where it goes. It just takes a little time, and everybody's busy. And I think in that respect, the committee could actually help and put together a plan, again, for your approval to look at. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't have to be one thing, it can be several.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can put a package, consider a package recommendation to include ordinances, whatever the scope might be. It's free. Set a timeline. I'm sure if you get people that care, they can work it.
Okay. Nothing like putting me in a position. I would like to know, I have 4 people, this is for our attorney. I have 4 people that are in favor of the committee. Can I go ahead and ask for volunteers and form a committee at this time?
As long as there's not final council action to appoint specific members to a committee, I think a consensus of the council can ask for volunteers.
Okay. I have a consensus on the committee. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm sure our city manager will be glad to serve on that committee. Yes, and our engineering firm and our Department of Public Works Director. And also to serve on that committee, we are going to need some volunteers from the audience. If I already see one wife volunteering her husband, so I I would like to know if there is anyone in this audience who would like to volunteer to serve on that committee. Thank you, Mr. Bramer.
You add my brother Mark also, please.
Okay, I have your name. What's your first name?
Kirk.
Kirk. And your brother?
Mark.
Mark.
Yes, ma'am.
Mark. Do I have another volunteer?
I don't know anything about water, but I can help you guys put together any reporting.
And what is your name?
Michael Upchurch.
Michael Upchurch. Is there anyone else? James Flannery? Okay. Okay, I have 2 more volunteers, and that should do it.
I'll volunteer.
I have Shannon Jackson and Clum. I forgot your first name.
Darren.
Darren. C-O-U-M. We have 6 already. Do you still want to volunteer, Pat?
Volunteer if you need another.
Well,
You need an uneven number.
okay. Well, they're not going to vote on anything. You're
Well,
just
no,
going
but
to
we-
approve it. But that's okay, because I don't have a problem with people who want to serve. I think we need a variety of input. So I have these names of people who will serve on a committee. They are going to work on that. We also had a recommendation that we can have 2 members of the city council. I would like volunteers.
I would like to volunteer.
Okay, we have Karen. Billy? Well, did you say give everybody else a chance? We can't have more than 2. Would anyone like to volunteer over volunteer?
You want me on? I'm just coming on the council. If y'all have anything to do about whatever you want to do.
Would you like to serve on it?
Mayor, I'm sorry, you can have more than 2 as long as,
But then we have the open,
all you have to
don't we have to
do,
post to all the meetings and everything?
You
Whereas
would-
if we only have 2, then we can serve whenever everybody,
that's true. I'm just saying, if more council members want to participate, and every once in a while, we advise cities to post planning and zoning commission meetings or what have you, as a council meeting, just in the event that a quorum drops by. If you don't want to have to post because you want that flexibility, you can only have 2.
2 without post, and any more than that, the meetings, they have to be posted 72
hours in
hours, everything in advance.
Address has to be correct.
That would be correct.
I think I'm gonna mark that name off.
I think
No.
this committee will have to meet on shorter notice than 72 hours will allow it sometimes. And I think to keep it at 2 would be
You think to keep it at 2, okay.
that way we don't run a chance.
Okay. I'm gonna let that decision be made by Billy Blake. You or Robert? Which one of you really wants to serve on this committee the most?
If Robert would like to do it, it's fine.
Okay, Robert, you're on this committee. You did say you'd like to do it, right? He didn't say like, but he said he would, so that to me means I like it. Okay, we are going to have a committee, and you will, we have the names down, and the city manager will be getting in touch with you and see what is the best time for you to meet for these committees, get this together and put it in some type of program. We have number 3, and I hope you do the guidelines on the rate change. I do have a question before I go to the next thing. No, I'll wait on the announcements and do that. The number 3 is consider and take any action necessary. There will be no action because this is a workshop. But what we have is establishing a policy or clarification procedure for the following: extension hardship policy, leak adjustment policy, financial hardship policy, and procedure that's required when the account goes to the power of attorney and executor of the estate. If you've had a death in the family, you realize that we don't have any written guidelines for this. I have made some research on this. I contacted some other towns, and it's really educational when you get in it. The first thing that I did was I called the city of Sherman. Yes. You can be excused. I do want to tell you what I did find out, which was really interesting. I contacted the welfare department, the city of Sherman, the city of Howe, the city of Tom Bean in regarding how they did their policies. And as far as I'm concerned, these could be turned over to the same committee. But I do want to share with you what I found out. I was very surprised when I called the welfare department that, you know, they say, well, we do utility assistance. What they don't say is, we don't do water. We do electric, we do gas. We never assist anyone with their water billing. I didn't really understand that, and she said, yes, she said, we even have people who need assistance, and they will come in and apply for assistance through the for gas and electric so that they can save their money to pay their water bill. So that was really interesting to me, that is how it was handled. I went to the city of Sherman and found out that they don't have a financial hardship policy. Although I did get their policy on leak adjustments, payment extensions, and a letter for that, and I will be giving this to each one of the council. I'll see that each one of the council members gets this. I went to the city of Tom Bean, and they don't have a leak adjustment policy. And if you have a leak, you have to go, you don't go to the Department of Public Works. You have to go before the council for assistance. And they'll help you on the sewer, but they won't do anything regarding the water in Tom Bean. They do have the policy relative to the services provided, and they have charges for the city of Tom Bean. But those were the only things that I could find that were in place with the city of Tom Bean. Then I went to the city of Howe. They have extension guidelines and adjustment policy. And as far as I know, if you have a billing here, they've been doing the lady I contacted had been doing the billing for 22 years, and she informed me that this was what they had for utility payment extension guidelines, service discontinual guidelines, and these are given to everyone. Adjustments for leakage and those were the only guidelines that they gave in that town. So I have done the research on that. In our packet, the council also has a financial hardship policy which I really would like for us to go over this. I have a problem with this. The thing I have the most problem with is the definition of a customer in hardship. Seniors 65 and older. Well, I know it's hard to be old, but I can't see that you have a hardship just because of your age, or that you have a hardship because you're on Medicare or SSI. That does mean you're low income, but there are a lot of people who don't have a hardship for that. I did like the fact that it did, someone in the military who was on active military duty had been discharged from the military in the last 180 days. I do think it's difficult on our servicemen sometimes. But these are policies that we also need to go over. We need input from either the council on these policies, or we need, or they can be included and looked at. But the bottom line is, one of these policies are ours. Where did the other policies that we have come from?
The other policies, Mayor, came from legal. The first policy states at the bottom, was passed and approved by City Council 13th of 2012.
This is
amended by City Council April 9th of 13. That's the first page. That is the current policy.
Wait just a minute. This is the current policy on, then you need to tell me what it's on.
Okay.
This is the only policy that we have in effect. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let's see, requests for extensions. Requests for extensions will not be automatically granted. This is utility payment extension policy. Requests for extensions will not be automatically granted. Requests for an extension will be made during regular business hours of the City of Alstyne in writing and signed in the presence of and approved by the city manager, the city clerk, or the utility billing supervisor. Requests must be made before the 26th day of the month. If the 25th day of the month falls on a Saturday or Sunday or a day when the city office is closed for an official holiday, the request for extension must be made before the close of business on the day before the Saturday, Sunday, or holiday. Verbal, electronic, and/or phone requests may be made no more than twice in a consecutive 12-month period. Only 4 extensions will be permitted in a consecutive 12-month period. This period does not begin anew at the end of the calendar year, but will be continuous. If a granted extension is not honored and the account not brought current when promised, further extensions will not be granted unless and until the account is brought current and remains current each and every month for a period of 12 consecutive months. Extensions will not be extended. The city manager retains the right to waive any and all of these guidelines when the city manager determines severe and/or emergency circumstances exist which warrant waiving the guidelines. Again, this is passed and approved by the council November 13th of 2012. It was amended by the city council this past April 9th, 2013.
Okay. The others are recommendations, but they have not been approved. I would like to add the policies from the towns that I have mentioned in the council packets so that we can get a full view of the financial hardship, leak adjustment, and extension practices. Okay, I will turn these documents over to our city manager so that the council can see not only what was recommended at the time, but other policies that have been considered. I don't know about you, but I'm tired. We've been here a long time, but we still have some announcements to make. And while we're discussing the water bill, I know that when this council was doing the workshop on the budget and the different things that had to do with the ordinance, at one time we discussed the fact that if the water bill is due on the 15th the water bill should be due on the 15th. We have a policy in place that if the water bill is due on the 15th, it can go on till the first, and it's on a Friday, then you've got all weekend to go up there and put your bill in. I thought that council had discussed the fact that if it was due on the 15th, it would be due by the close of day, whether that day was Monday through Friday. If it was on Friday, it was still due at the end of that day. It doesn't quite seem fair to me that if the 15th falls on Friday, you've got 2 more days than anybody else that month, and you push it. But it should not be at the beginning of the next work day, but it should be before the close of the business hours on the 15th. So this is something else. I thought that we had discussed it. Council had discussed this. So this is an issue also I would like for the council to consider. And because I think it's the fair way to be, it's easy billing. You don't say, well, oh, you've got, if it's on Friday, just slip it in there on Monday morning before we open. No, if it's due on one day, it should be due before the close of business that day. I also have another announcement, and that we will go back to meeting out at the college. The reason being that we can now stay out there till 10 o'clock or as late as we want to, because they have got their classes in order. They now have to have security out there until 10 o'clock anyway. So maybe we can get away before 10 o'clock. But if we call and notify them, she's going to put us down, and they're going to check to make sure we're out before security leaves that night. Before, the problem was we had to leave by 9 o'clock. Also, if we do not have to sit in the way we did in the auditorium before, that bottom row can be considered handicap accessible. So I assume our next council meeting will be at the junior college. I would like one other announcement from our city manager, and that is an update on our community center. Can you give us that, please?
Mayor and council, nothing's been hard and fast with the community center. We had an engineer come out while the event was still occurring. Did a preliminary assessment. Name is Boyce Farrar is the engineer. And the preliminary assessment was that the load was great. Of course, the ice was still on the building. He believed that the roof would return to its design parameters. However, he couldn't guarantee anything. So the main thing was we got the adjuster contacted, got the engineer out there while the ice still on the building, took a look at it, said he'd get a report back. Preliminary assessment showed that there was moderate damage to the roof structure over the newly roofed police department as well as the fire barracks. Also, those structures are wooden, and they're tied to a metal structure, which is the community center and the fire department bays. It was some time to get him and the adjuster back out, but they came back out last week. Of course, we're waiting on the engineer for his full assessment. He said he would get it back to us sometime this week. I certainly hope he's on time with it, because we need to move forward on getting the repairs done. He contacted Delta, which originally built that metal building. Delta stated that the building was still good and sound, that it had returned to its prior useful function. However, the suspended ceiling, the metal had elongated. Suspended ceiling has not been cleared,
So he's going to state, or he said he was going to state in his assessment that it was going to need to be repaired, as well as some of the walls. He didn't state exactly what the extent of the damage was over the police and fire, but we're supposed to be getting that assessment back, and that's the first step in the puzzle towards getting contractors to bid exactly on what needs to be done to the facility and getting it to where we can occupy it again. Friends of the library can have their breakfast. The fire department can, well, everybody can utilize the structure because it's utilized for any number of functions because it is our community center. The barn that's directly behind City Hall, the roof is significantly damaged. It is going to have to be removed according to the engineer and the adjuster, and we're going to have to replace some of the structural elements that are holding the roof up. So that'll be part of the, won't be the same bid, but it'll be, we'll have to get that done as well. And that contains some of our parks equipment, public works equipment, as well as police seizure and other significant items for the police department. So that's basically where we are. FEMA did come out 2 weeks ago with the county and the state and took a good look at our streets and some of our structures and did a preliminary assessment. So we did, the county itself did fall within the parameters of getting federal dollars for reimbursement. However, we haven't met the threshold for the region. So we're waiting to hear whether Collin, Denton, Dallas County turn in numbers that are significant enough for us to get federal reimbursement as opposed to just state reimbursement. The only place I see that happening for us is possibly on some streets. I don't see that happening on the structures because they are insured, and we don't want to gamble and not insure them thinking that the feds of the state are going to come in and replace them. So we're in good shape as far as that's concerned, but please be patient. Community center will be repaired. Again, I'm sorry I don't have a definite date right now because it's going to be dependent upon what the extent of the repairs are going to be.
Thank you. I want to also thank Shannon for having us here tonight. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but we had to refund money to people who had rented the community center. So we're not the only one that was displaced. They were, and I was glad when I found out that the Methodist Church had used the Sanford Center and had allowed several of the people who had made arrangements and rented the community center to use the Sanford Center for their activities. So I think that's good. So we've had community help from several different places, and that is good. The last thing is, do you need I know you know where the water bill goes, but do you need anyone's phone number that volunteered tonight? Some of them you know, but would you like for them to come up afterwards?
If you would, please give me your name, contact number, and email. That'd be the best way to try and set all this up.
Or business card, if you've got it.
Business card's great.
I finally got a card. Okay. At this time, this is not a formal meeting, but I do think I need a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion from the council that we adjourn? So moved. Is there a second? Second, Jessica. He's calling wrong. All those in favor that we adjourn, please raise your hand. I'm really surprised. I didn't see any hands in the audience. Yeah, it's all there. Don't forget, leave your phone number.
I'm going to talk to someone.
I assume. I don't know. I don't know.
When he said that they moved that down the well, when he said that they moved that down to well 6, they might have cut that line off.